one for the Maven Sturgis project, but I would like to see something in the minutes to say that it would be proportionally. In other words, if you got $1 million, I've done the math, it was right at $213,000 that I would like to see put on the Maven Sturgis project from District 5's funds. I'm not asking for the whole 400, but proportionally, I think that would be fair to award $213,000 and some change to District 1.
Well, that should be up for discussion.
Sure.
You do know that if I give up District 5 state aid funds, they're gonna have the Occidental County to make up the difference on those funds. So I wouldn't put that burden, I couldn't see you putting that burden on Occidental County. Occidental County has agreed to pay the matching dollars, agreed to match those funds. So if you take those funds away, that's just more money that Occidental County gonna have to match to make that project work. My thinking is that those state aid dollars, since that's a state aid road, state aid should be responsible for paving it, and the county shouldn't have that responsibility. State aid, federal highway. State should be responsible, should be state aid dollars, should be state funds. I understand that the county has to do some matching dollars, but more and more we take away state aid dollars from District 5, the more the county gonna have to make up. So be careful.
Well, I'm asking
that particular motion.
Yeah. Well, what I'm asking for is the same thing. This Maven Sturgis Road is a state aid road, so I'm just asking for. I think you may have to modify the project a little bit, although I do see some of this emergency money coming in. I'm hearing anywhere from 7.8 to 8.4 million that Occidental County looks or stands to get from the COVID relief funds.
Yeah, did you got that information in an email? You sent it to us?
Well,
Breakdown?
AR, but that's a little different deal. Now, are you just making a point of order based upon what you'd like to see done, or you make?
I would, yeah. I mean, in other words, I understand we were asking for 1.9 million from the state,
right,
and they were generous enough, however, through the legislature,
right,
and certainly appreciative of the million. And instead of the 400,000, if we'd have gotten that 1.9 million,
right,
I'm just asking, since we got the million for our top, to proportionally consider Maven Sturgis Road instead of 400,000, proportionally, percentage-wise. In other words, $1 million is about 53% of 1.9 million. So I'm asking for 53% of that 400,000, which would be 213, to go on the Maven Sturgis Road project.
I think, like you're saying, with the ARP Act, Occidental County is getting 9.62 million, and I think maybe there's a possibility, of course, that's designated for what that money can be spent on, but I think there may be some opportunity to spend that money on things and then move some money around to help with some of these projects. And the other thing, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to recover funds, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think that there's not a lot of restrictions when you go back and recover funds. When that money comes back in, I think there's not a lot of restrictions on that. Am I correct by saying that?
So far,
that money
right.
could be used. So in other words, you recover it from a project from what's been going on, but when it comes back, it doesn't have a lot of attachments to it that doesn't make it clear to use for projects. I'm correct on saying that?
That is my understanding as well, but
it's a little different than that. But I think before we get too far off in the weeds here, let's go ahead and approve the minutes, and then we can go ahead and because the only thing this says here is that if it was awarded. So
right.
District 5 didn't get the 1.9, So that means that whatever District 5 got is gonna be short of being able to complete that project. So
As it stands.
As it stands. So if they didn't get but $1 million, and we gonna only spend $1 million on Oxtock Road, then we already know that it's already been estimated the project gonna cost what, 1.9, was it 2?
1.9.
So we're already short.
Correct.
You know, so we'll have to go back and look at ways on either we're gonna just go as far as we can go on that, or we're gonna find some additional dollars somewhere else to supplement the shortage.
Well,
And that's another discussion.
That order, I was under the impression that we were gonna get
Right.
1.9 million, so that's on mute now.
Right.
We have to go to another way, but we still got to close out these minutes that were approved.
so where's Maven, I guess here's my question is,
That's for another discussion.
so is Maven Sturgis to get zero then?
Maybe Sturgis won't get anything, not out of this allocation that Oxtock did, but it was specific for Oxtock.
Well, the original board order was this was the original deal. Remember? It had to be a unanimous vote in order to get this.
Right.
Well, John had said that he wasn't voting in favor of it if he didn't get District 5 state aid money, since you were gonna get 1.9. Well, now that number has changed, I think what John is saying, he don't want the whole thing, he's trying to be fair about it. And I'm just trying to bring this all back. So basically, I guess it still stands. We still need a unanimous vote to get the $1 million.
Now the $1 million already in place.
Yeah.
It's already been funded.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
all we're doing is proving
There,
that.
so-
I know this is,
The level is-
excuse me.
But that does not eliminate your thoughts on it.
Excuse me, please. Okay. Now, I want you to remember all of John's statement.
Okay.
John also stated that if federal dollars are received, then he would not be asking for my money from the money that I have from state aid. That was his statement too, if federal dollars are received. Now, we are looking to receive some federal dollars.
And we've not received.
And that is because we haven't received those dollars yet, but we do think that we will receive. That was his statement too. Remember everything that has been said. I do.
I do.
This is what
Now,
counts.
I want you to
Yeah,
understand too.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
This is what counts.
Read that though.
All this
It
says.
says that if, let me read it. In the event District 5 is awarded the 1.9 million
Right.
for up to all County Road. That didn't say if it was awarded 1 million.
Well, that-
It said if it was awarded the 1.9 million.
But it's
It is
understood.
it is not awarded 1.9 million.
I know, but it was understood.
Well, you can vote any way you want to. It's
Well,
not
that's
right.
true too. But now, they said then, District 5 portion of state aid funds will be awarded to District 1.
And I'm not asking for all of it.
I mean, that's what
State
it
aid
Read the
funds,
whole
I'm
statement,
asking
the
for
way the statement really
proportionally.
says.
Well,
What the
now-
statement really says.
Only thing that changes is 1 million and 1.9. And all he's saying, he wants to readjust it down from the original ask down to what he thinks is proportionate based upon what you got. That's what he's saying.
That's not fair.
I think we need to approve the minutes and then
Let's
we'll
go
discuss
forward with
later.
the minutes, please.
I'm gonna
Is
abstain.
there any other observations that we have within the minutes?
My motion to approve, still out there.
Second.
That's been motion and second motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, that we approve the March 2021 board meeting. All in favor? All opposed? The motion carries 4-1. Okay, let's move forward.
So at this point, is everything still the same then? All,
No, because we didn't even get 1.9 million.
no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about the second half of this negotiation that was put in place. So is all districts still getting their original allotted amount of state aid money?
Original amount of state aid money, that's the way the minutes read. Minutes read, say if District 5 is awarded 1.9 million, not 1 million. So let's move forward.
I've already said that I'm gonna try to help with my state aid on Maple Sturgis Road, it connects to.
The problem
Oh, I
is,
remember that.
without getting the
I
whole
didn't.
1.9 million,
I know what the original thing was. I think it's just some jockeying going on right here now. It's
Well, I
all
was just
this-
trying to be fair.
the project won't go move forward.
He's gonna move,
I understand.
where the 1 million is gonna come from,
1 million, it's gonna come from.
Occidental County.
From the state.
No, but the other money,
The other
money,
money.
it's not there to
Well,
move forward.
you gonna have to supplement it with another funding source, or you gonna have to just bid the money you got and cut the project back. That's just the only two
Well, we
choices.
supplement-
I don't think we're gonna let the money stay in the state.
And I'll be quite
We
honest with you, I wish
supplement
Maple
Maple
Sturgis
Sturgis.
Road had a problem to deal with, if we had $1 million and I could say, well, I'm short $1 million because I've been given zero.
Until
Yeah.
we can find
District
another
one's got
source,
zero.
then it won't go.
We're going to address that.
Yeah, okay, let's move
Yeah.
forward.
We're gonna,
Now, next on the agenda is public hearing, amendment for the Garin redevelopment plan. Redevelopment plan for Garin.
Good morning, I'm
Good morning.
Christiana Sugg from B.O.S and Associates, and I'm here to answer any questions with you on behalf of the development team. Okay. My apologies, I did not get the approval resolution included in y'all's packet, so I handed it out when I got here. If there are any questions about the TIF plan has not changed. You may remember from my last visit with y'all, is that a camera? Am I blocking it?
Oh,
Doesn't
you're
matter.
fine.
The only change in this TIF plan is that it increases the amount of bonds to be issued because the city is increasing the money they're putting in by about $53,000 a year. The county's pledge, the county's participation stays the same. But because y'all are participating with the city, we have to have y'all approve it, so we're all on the same page.
You have a chance to review this, attorney?
This looks almost identical to the last one we did, so, yes, I mean, this is same thing.
It is, the changes are to the county's, to the city's pledge, I'm
Right,
sorry.
everything that is different is on the city side of it.
That's right.
County is still lead entity on.
I'm sorry, the
City-
city's.
city-
City
Yes, sir.
lead
Yes,
entity?
sir.
We're
City's
participating.
project. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
So y'all will sign an interlocal agreement with them and then put the money in when it's time. The bulk of the money for these projects comes from those sales tax rebates. It's $538,000. It's estimated to bring in $538,000 a year, and the city is now putting in 60% of that instead of 50%.
And the county's giving up what percent of their growth on it?
75% of the ad valorem. And we do
75% of
realize,
their growth.
yes ma'am, we do realize that is significant for the county, and we appreciate the county's continued support of this project. It is a large private investment, and we're very excited to see it move forward, so we thank you for your consideration.
Motion to move forward.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, that we approve the resolution for the amendment of the Garin redevelopment plan. Any questions? Additional questions? If not, all in favor?
All right.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, y'all have a good morning.
Joe, some of them,
Citizen comment period. We have any citizen in the audience that would like to come forward and make a comment. If we do not have any citizens present, and I see there's none, we'd like to have Citizen Campanella come forward to talk about a resolution in support and honor of the telecommunicators and first responders.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I put a brief summary in your packet this morning. So the month of April is dedicated as Emergency 911 Education Month. The second week in April is designated as National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. This week, initially set up in 1981, is a time to celebrate and thank those who dedicate their lives in serving our public. These first responders are on the job 24/7 to keep us safe. With seconds making the difference between life, death, and property loss, it is often the quick decisions of these unsung heroes who play a decisive factor in the outcome of emergencies. They provide emergency medical instruction, deal with suicidal persons, analyze background noises, and a caller's voice to assess a situation. They coordinate the dispatch and safe arrival of police, fire, and EMS personnel, and much more. So today I would like to ask you for your support of our 911 public safety telecommunicators to be recognized as first responders.
Absolutely. Give them a round of applause, too.
I do have some of our staff with us today, and Jarvis would like to read a little bit about data of just about 911 calls, so just you're kind of aware of the amount of call volumes that come in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And this is just, like Christian said, this is a few statistics that we received from the National Emergency Numbering Association, which is a national 911 organization who keeps up with a lot of that information across the board for the 911 agencies. But as of February 2021, the United States has about 5,748 primary and secondary PSAPs. The PSAPs are public safety answering points, where the calls are disseminated and come to the 911 centers. And the secondary PSAPs are in 3,135 counties, which include parishes, independent cities, boroughs, and also census information. 94% of PSAPs have phase 1, which means you give that basic information of a phone number. 99.2% of PSAPs have phase 2, which gives you what we call the annuality, that number, the number and also the location of a caller, where we can say, hey, we're going to put them in phase 2 and we can find out exactly where that person is. We have the capability here in Oktibbeha County. 97.8% of counties have phase 1. 97.3% of counties have phase 2. But 98.9% of populations have that phase 1 capability, where 98.9% population have phase 2. An estimate of about 240 million calls are made in to the 911 centers in the United States each year, which in many areas, about 8% more are from wireless devices. Of the 240 million calls made yearly to the PSAPs, Oktibbeha County E911 Communication Center handles back between April 3rd, 2019 to April the 2nd of 2020, 136,219 calls. Between April 3rd, 2020 and April 3rd of 2021, the call volume increased almost 20,000 to 155,134 calls that we handled. 552,760 of that came through 911 center was just radio traffic. So we had someone that answered 552,760 times over the course of the last year. And some of our communication staff, they have the amount of calls that they handle and the calls for service. And we'll start, we have Ms. Saya Beckham, Vivian Hinks, and Tyler Gray. So if y'all would please stand and show.
Good morning. I'm Ms. Saya Beckham. I've handled 5,140 incoming calls since April 2020 as a public safety communication specialist with 4,881 calls for service.
Good morning. I'm Vivian Hicks, and I've handled 2,623 incoming calls since April 2020 as a public safety communication specialist with 1,815.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tyler Gray. I've handled 5,875 incoming calls since April 2020 as a public safety communication specialist with 4,859 calls for service.
Thank you. We couldn't have everybody here today, somebody has to answer the phone. But if y'all would like to support us and sign this resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Absolutely. Second.
Been motioned by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Howard, that we do sign a resolution. And this is a resolution here honoring our first responders and telecommunicators the work that they do, the dedicated service that they provide for our citizens and provide for our County.
Thank you.
So, Board of Supervisors, this is the resolution that we will be presenting today to telecommunicators and first responders.
Can y'all all get together with President? I'll take a picture.
Yeah.
And the Vice President.
Oh,
But I would also like to not stop their support here. There's also congressional legislation that's coming to do this nationally. It's called the 911 Saves Act. So if y'all can support that as well, congressional leaders for that.
Whose camera do we want to use?
I'll pull it up.
John, you got it?
I got it.
Yeah, I'm in my
I guess so.
I guess, where you want to
They decided they don't want
They're tired of hearing, they're tired of hearing me.
Yeah, come on.
What? Yeah, why don't the runners line this way so everybody can be in the background? Does that make
Go
sense?
right next door, right quick and take it.
Huh?
Go right next door, right.
Are we good?
Here.
Yeah, I need to rush y'all. Come on.
This way.
How are y'all this morning? Good.
You gonna run in?
get the little single back there.
I'm gonna turn this back.
Yeah.
Right, Jarvis. Keep moving. Y'all say when you're ready. 1, 2, 3.
We're all cheesing underneath the mask.
Oh, yeah.
There. Thank y'all. Congratulations. Thank you for all you do.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just go down, or do we need to skip down to?
One.
Do I need to go to 4? Down to 4th line?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Everybody want to use this blue pen? So what's that?
Assessment changes and homestead deletions. Mr. Young?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, assessment changes and
Make motion for approval. Same with the package.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller, and we approve the assessment changes and homestead deletions. Are there any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
I'm proud of you. She's a hard little worker. Lions insurance. I mean, this one.
We are glad to have Slaughter and Associates with us today. So, Mr. Mike Slaughter, would you please come forward and share some information with us?
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Mike Slaughter with Slaughter and Associates. I'm going to put up a quick map and I'll be right back with you if that's okay. Yes, Supervisor Trainer invited me to be here. The last time I was here, I guess on real official business for the county, would have been somewhere around December 15th of 2014 when the county adopted the comprehensive plan that we worked with the county to prepare. And I've handed out each and every one of you a copy, your own copy of the comprehensive plan. I've also handed out our company packet. This just gives you information regarding our urban planning firm and the services that we offer, and just summarizes all of that. There's also some flyers in the back regarding redistricting, comprehensive planning, and land use controls. And then I've handed out just a little PowerPoint presentation that I could flip through, because I think since 2014 we have maybe 2 new board members. Is that correct?
I was here last time. Well, you were here when we did the, I don't think anybody's changed since the last time you came, because that's when we adopted our guidelines.
Okay.
We didn't want to go into the zoning, because
That's right.
county
Okay.
people didn't want to be zoned. We weren't ready for that, so we adopted guidelines.
I'm glad
so no changes.
You corrected me on that. Everybody here understand what a comprehensive plan is, and I can quickly just go through it from the top of my head. What we did over 6 years ago now, is we prepared our comprehensive plan, which is a long-term guide. It's looking out 20 to 25 years into the future as a planning process. We had goals and objectives where we really had a very good meeting with the public in the courtroom next door. We had a lot of attendance, which is unusual in a lot of cases, but what we really want. So we had a lot of good input, because what that does is make this plan the county's plan. Then we worked on the future land use plan, which this is our future land use plan for the entire county. And then here's one that zooms in close around the city of Starkville. So this helps to guide future growth and development. There's also a transportation plan, which is very important to the growth and development of a community. And certainly you all have good highways around here and access to neighboring counties and interstates, which is good. But and that's what we most think about or when it comes to transportation plan. But other things are important, whether it has to do with pedestrian access or routes, bike routes, and even other areas such as the airport. And of course, you're blessed here with the Golden Triangle Airport as well. And then the last one is community facilities. And all of those are addressed in this comprehensive plan. And certainly that can deal with fire stations, any facilities the sheriff department may need, whether it's jails or other facilities, parks and recreation, drainage, roads, water, sewer. Typically most counties in Mississippi aren't in the water or sewer or natural gas business, aren't in the utility business. But there's certainly other community facilities that I have mentioned. And then we sort of close out on the comprehensive plan with some implementation and maintenance of the plan. Typically, even though the planning horizon is looking out 20 to 25 years when we're preparing this, typically on our future land use plan, we're sort of looking out 5 years or so, because really a community should consider updating their comprehensive plan every 5 years or so, especially in growing communities like we have here in Oktibbeha County and the city of Starkville. But it's sort of a summary on page 58 of the comprehensive plan. Has to do with implementation, which is very important, is implementing the plan as well as the plan maintenance. And certainly one of the things we look at in implementation is certainly you've got to have an annual budget to help implement the plan, whether it's generated from local revenues, state or federal revenues. A capital improvement program helps to identify any type of capital projects, and it's typically looking out 5 years into the future, and you update that every year, so it always has a 5-year horizon for your capital improvements. There's intergovernmental agreements, of course, that you can have with city and counties and other agencies. One implementation tool, especially in following your future land use map, are zoning ordinances. And more counties in Mississippi are adopting those zoning ordinances, and of course, by a long shot, not all of them have. A few years ago, let's see when this was adopted, in 2018, we actually prepared for Lafayette County. We updated their comprehensive plan in 2018, and we prepared a zoning ordinance countywide for them. It's the first time Lafayette County has ever had countywide zoning. And I'm not going to say in the beginning all 5 supervisors were for the zoning. Obviously, you can have different levels of it. There were some on one end of the spectrum, some on the completely opposite end of the spectrum. But by the time we finished that zoning ordinance, there was a unanimous vote by the Board of Supervisors, and the people in attendance applauded the Board of Supervisors for doing that. And that's just, I'm speaking for Lafayette County because I was directly involved in that one as well. And what that does, our comprehensive plan and our future land use plan is a guide. It's a plan. It has no teeth to it, like an ordinance that you would adopt, such as a zoning ordinance or subdivision regulations. So with a zoning ordinance, this future land use plan can help guide those future decisions, and your zoning ordinance actually is your legal way of enforcing those land use controls. After that, subdivision regulations. Lafayette County has subdivision regulations, and the reason those are important, this is just a reminder, and you may already know this, but anytime a developer comes in, of course, they want to make money. Everybody needs to make a living, no doubt about it. There's nothing wrong with that. But they certainly want to make money. If there's if there's any ways to make money, one way is to cut the overall cost of the project. But when it comes to infrastructure, that certainly does not need to happen when it comes to roads and drainage, and in whether it's a city or a utility district or water and sewer facilities. It's important to make sure that those are designed properly with the proper width, proper pavement thickness, subgrade thickness, and the drainage is designed properly as well so it will last. Because if after 3, 4, 5 years the infrastructure starts to deteriorate, the burden falls on the citizens of Octave Hall County to maintain that infrastructure. There was one more thought from the subdivision regulations. Okay, also I know there's been talk around here of where you have developments and it can overload county roads. That's the purpose of the subdivision regulations and your comprehensive plan, is help identify what's the proper width of the roads that they should be. Should there be some road improvements made along the frontage when a development is coming in, where it may need to add a turn lane or a center lane or whatever it may be, to make sure you have a proper capacity to handle the traffic, and then that's very important. If not, that cost lands on the citizens of Octave Hall County as well. So subdivision regulations are very important as an implementation tool. And then there's some construction, building codes, and fire codes that are really public safety, to protect the public safety, health, and welfare. And then you can also get into sign ordinances, landscaping ordinances. Now that's typically for commercial industrial, not trying to tell an individual how they should landscape around their house, but for commercial industrial. An example of that would be if you had a Walmart parking lot, instead of it being a sea of concrete or asphalt and striping, that it certainly have islands that are landscaped and trees and so forth, so it's not just all asphalt. And then unkempt property ordinance, architectural design, and of course, anytime really a plan or ordinance is not really worth anything if it's not properly enforced. And I think that's probably the most important implementation tools is the implementation of your comprehensive plan as well as any ordinances and regulations that you adopt. And then, like I said, the last thing it mentions in here is typically in growing communities, especially so, that you should consider updating your comprehensive plan every 5 years every 5 years or so.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to
I
ask you.
was just about to say I'm going to turn the meeting back over and be glad to answer any questions because I was just wrapping it up just then.
We have guidelines that addresses all of that. Talks about, we adopted these after the last time that you came to visit.
Right.
And so it talks about if we're going to adopt a road, the standards it has to be built to, the water, the types of pipes that have to go into a subdivision. It breaks it down into multi-use. And you talked about enforcement. With our guidelines in the county, how do other counties enforce that? I mean, we have an approval process that you're supposed to go through, and you're supposed to build it to the thing. Is that something where you have to have an officer that enforces it?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say so, but it depends on what all you're enforcing. If you had land use controls or zoning, then you would need someone that could interpret your zoning ordinance and work with the public in those land use guidelines. If you had other ordinances such as building codes, then obviously you would need someone to enforce those building codes and do inspections. So it would just depend what you have. Now typically if you're looking at subdivision regulations, you have a county engineer that's very familiar with the subdivision regulations and can interpret
He's the one that approves. He's the one that comes and says,
right,
okay, they built it to standard.
Exactly.
Isn't that right? After they come and fill out an application.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, that's
so is there
exactly
anything?
right.
Have you looked at our plan? Is there anything that you're seeing on there that we're not doing?
Well, let me tell you, where I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage is that I didn't realize what you've done since then.
Okay.
What you were telling me was good news to me of what you all have done. So I have not made an assessment of what the plan says versus where you currently are. Because I really haven't been working with the county since about December 2015.
Now, me personally, I really think that we need to consider, and I know what you're saying on those plans, the engineer, but I think I've been sitting here at the board too, we've been a little concerned about quality of work and some other things because, we do put a lot on the engineer to do certain things, but at the same time, when we get invoices and get bills and whatnot like too, we have a concern about that. So I think that we're doing something, but I think with the way our county is growing, if we want to continue to prosper, like I hope we do, then I think we need to be a little bit more engaged, a little bit more aggressive. Do we need to do something that's going to be detrimental to our County's growth? No, I don't think we need to do that. But at the same time, with the way our county is growing, and with some of the issues that we're dealing with right now, Blackjack Road, case in point.
Mm-hmm.
Either we're going to allow problems to create themselves and we're going to try to fix them somewhere in the future and have to spend a whole lot of money, or we're going to get ahead of the curve. Like those apartments and things on Blackjack Road and whatnot like that, those apartments should have never been put there because the infrastructure was not in place.
To handle it.
Was to handle it. And we knew that, but we didn't want to get involved because we know that getting involved is going to require a heavy lift on our part, making some tough decisions. But our county is growing. I mean, if we don't want that type of growth, then, and I hate to say it, we don't need to serve in our County. But we're in our County, and we need to make sure that we're looking out for the best long-term direction of the county. And I think that someone who can help guide us through that, to me, saves us a lot of headache, or saves whoever sits in these seats headache years to come. That's the way I see it. And then also, I want you to talk a little bit about the annexation of City of Stark. See, people think that don't affect our County, but it does. And so, if you don't mind, and I know you can't say a whole lot because I think you're
We just finished up court a couple weeks ago.
But that does impact our Tibbetts. I'm not talking about just the east side, but it impacts the entire county and city. Because if you don't grow, you're down.
And may I add something on that, Mr. President? I work all over the state of Mississippi with cities and counties and school districts. Mostly my client base is public entities throughout the state of Mississippi. And Oktibbeha County is a very fortunate county. And you know, we can state the obvious. One reason, obviously, you have Mississippi State University here, big time SEC sports. Oktibbeha County is going to grow. It's fortunate. Not every county I can say that about, but Oktibbeha County growth and development is going to happen. Write it down. That's just what's going to happen. It's what's been happening. It's what's going to continue to happen. This is what I think, as a planning consultant, just my opinion, I think the better position that this county is in to make the right decisions about that growth and development, because you can be selective. You don't want to cut off, strangle growth and development. You don't want to do that. But you want to make sure that whatever development comes in this county is an asset to this county and not a burden on the tax base of this county, is what you want to make sure. And if if anyone allows developments on infrastructure that can't handle that, then somebody's going to have to pay the price for that. It's better if the developer helps pitch in and pay some of that price or all of it to make sure that there's proper infrastructure there. So that's where it's not shifted to the citizens of the county. So the county's a very fortunate situation. There's a lot going on here. It's going to continue to grow. Mississippi State's going to continue to grow, and the city as well as this county. And so if you put yourself in a better position to address as well as embrace that development, is my recommendation to you, whatever that may be. And I'm very glad to hear that you all have moved forward on implementing.
In Lafayette County, do they have an overhand? So we have a county engineer, but he's just paid for projects. And so that's one thing that, you know, I think as we move forward, looking at putting on somebody that is a full-time engineer like they have for the city, where they could do, you know, projects. Does Lafayette have a own county, or do they pay per project for engineer? Do they have a own staff county engineer?
Well, let me answer it this way. They have a county engineer that handles all the state aid roads, the design and things like that, and other things that the state aid engineer does or the county engineer does. But they also have a full-time engineer on staff as well. And some of the advantages to that would not only be enforcing the subdivision regulations, but also being able to go out and make sure that there's thorough inspection of the grading, the subgrading of the roads, the placement of the drainage, the design of the drainage, and all that could be reviewed in-house. And then when they're getting ready to put down the subgrade, the asphalt, make sure it's properly constructed according to the subdivision regulations. So Lafayette County has an in-house engineer. They also have another guy that is over the zoning ordinance and building codes that addresses the zoning ordinance as well as the building codes. And if I remember correctly, the building codes for Lafayette County are only applied to commercial, industrial, and the only residential is if it's a platted subdivision. If a developer is building a 30-lot subdivision, plats that subdivision, they're going to be required to build those houses to the International Building Code. If someone goes out and buys 10 acres of land or 50 acres of land and wants to build them a house, then they're not going to inspect that. Is my latest understanding. So that's my understanding of Lafayette County. One last thing on the land use control on that, which is the zoning, you can see here we have an A1, which is a rural agricultural, and an A2, which is an agricultural. In the darker green of Lafayette County, that's where there's very little restrictions on what you can do out there, especially from an agricultural standpoint. But we're still able to control where people could put in a hog farm, a chicken farm, or scrap metal, or a junkyard that people just don't want popping up in their backyard. So we do have controls out here in the darker green, but less so on the agricultural. As you get closer into the city of Oxford, the light green, it does allow for more as a special exception, I think it is. That's not the term. I'll think of the term. But that someone can come before the board of supervisors in this area and maybe apply for commercial. It's not allowed outright, but it's allowed by conditional. It's a conditional use. I knew I'd think of it. It would be a conditional use. Conditional on the approval of the board of supervisors and certain other requirements. So there's more and more ag protection out here and less control on what you can do from ag. But in here, it sort of opens it up with the transportation corridors. You're getting closer to the city of Oxford. So that's how we break that down in those two ag communities on applying zoning. And then we also, just like we did in Oktibbeha County with future land use, you can see what we've done for the land use controls. This is a zoom, still a zoning map. It just zooms in around the city of Oxford, and you can see where the subdivisions have developed around the city. These are higher density ones in the orange, lower density in the yellow, and so forth. Help guide the future land use and controls.
We've talked a lot about subdivision development, which is good, which we need to be on top of that a little bit more. But I guess the one that always comes to the front is the blackjack deal. That one has cost the taxpayer quite a bit of money. And we did talk about requiring some sort of impact study from the developer before they are working with the engineer.
Yeah, traffic studies.
Yeah, traffic studies to see how we're gonna move all these individuals back and forth. Is there anything in that specifically addresses that development, apartments and things like that?
If you have
study of the area,
that would have to be in one of your subdivision regulations. If it meets certain requirements, it's going to require a traffic study. I know that's one thing that Oxford and I believe Lafayette County both do, and I'm not trying to say Starkville, Oktibbeha County the same, but they're similar. Cities, counties, universities, they're similar. There's a lot of growth going on, but in Oxford and Lafayette County, they do have that in their ordinances or regulations that will trigger a traffic study. It can't be. It can be recommended in the comprehensive plan, but again, this is a plan. It has no teeth. There's really no enforcement of this. This is just a plan to guide and direct. Where you get into something like you're talking about would be subdivision regulations and any other ordinance, zoning ordinance regulations and so forth.
Would it development, would that cover subdivisions, apartment complexes?
Yes, it would. It would. And I think it's a smart thing to do to make sure you have the infrastructure to handle traffic, but such as those high traffic generators as apartment complexes are.
So has to the best of your knowledge, has Lafayette County adopted those uniform building codes? Industrial building codes? So,
yes.
And I think Christian mentioned it one time before, that if you have a FEMA event, that's one of the requirements. I think you discovered that too, was to have that adopted. It opens up a new pot of assistance and funding that you can get if you already had those adopted. And right now, we don't have that privilege or luxury because we haven't adopted those.
And Of course, the flood insurance program is important. We'll make sure people build above that and not in it as best possible, especially so the flood way. But building codes are just flat down to public safety, whether it comes to natural gas explosions, electrical fires, and make sure it's structurally sound as well. It just comes down to public safety. I'm an engineer, a civil engineer and an urban planner, but I don't know one thing about inspecting a house or a structure from a building code standpoint. It's good to have those professionals that do that. It really is.
Well,
anything else on
yes,
planning or?
Well, we have discussed subdivision regulation, which is good. We talk about the Blackjack Road situation, but we believe that Octot Road is going to suffer the same type of building activities.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to go down Octot Road too as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we do need to start, not only have a plan, but to develop a regulation.
Mm-hmm.
For subdivision at least. And this is a plan, true enough, but there's no regulation attached to it.
No teeth to it at all.
Then we need to, in my opinion, pick through this plan and see which one is applicable, will apply
Right.
to, and make sense for Octagon County. Not thinking about what Lafayette County did.
That's right.
But what is applicable, what makes sense. We develop a regulation based on which one of these we think is good, which one of these we think is good for Octagon County.
That's exactly right. It's got to be for Oktibbeha County. Is what it has to be for.
And I suggest that we move forward in a hurry with the subdivision regulation. I know we have a plan, and we're talking to our county engineer, but I don't know whether we have any teeth on that in terms of whether or not we can hold him to moving forward with that development without adhering to some of the things that we think that should happen.
Subdivision regulations are needed, no doubt. But it sort of addresses, to me now, more of the width of your road, your drainage, things like that. Those roads are going to be turned over to Oktibbeha County in the future, so they need to be built right. I would say we need to go a little bit further and also study that area. If that subdivision is going to create so much more traffic, do we need slip lanes in and out, things like that? I think we need to go a little bit further than just concentrating on having those roads built to standards. I think we need to concentrate on, so we don't get into another blackjack situation to where we are having to try to go in after the fact now and spend a lot of money to relieve traffic and stuff like that.
Attorney Robinson, could you speak to that in terms of whether we just have a plan, or how do we move forward with developing regulation of subdivisions and Octagon?
We're just gonna have to come up with a standard of how we want to do it, whether it be through some kind of national deal that requires them to build to a certain code. But then you're gonna have, but the problem that we're gonna enter into, and this is the problem we've had right now, we have nothing that really, I mean, there's no teeth in anything. I mean, you can go out here and build about whatever you want to build, and, you know, just because we say, you know, the road needs to be this wide, well, what if I don't? And that's kind of where we're at right now. There's several roads out there that at some point they're going to ask us to accept those roads, and I've noticed most of the time we turn them down, but there are roads out there that we've accepted that are not even to our own standard. So we're going to have to come up with something with teeth in it that says, hey, this is the way you do it. One of the things that concerns me right now, and I know no one wants to hear the word zoning in the county because I grew up in the county and no one ever wanted to hear it. But let me throw this little caveat in here. The day you have a strip joint pop in behind your mama's house, you'll like zoning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just throw that out there for you to think about, because we could have these types of scenarios, or a pig farm, or a whatever. I don't suggest one particular thing. So we need to be at least thinking how we want to approach this, and keep this in mind. We can't say that you can't do that business. We have to say where you do it. In other words, we can't say you can't have a particular kind of business in the county. What you can say is this particular kind of business is okay in this particular area. And that can be a fairly designated small area. But right now, it's the Wild West. And that's just where we're at right now.
Well, I understand that, but I think sometimes when you talk about farming, when you talk about people that have been established on these farms for a long time, and you have residents that want to live close but live in the farming community, and then they say, well, we don't like the smell, but they moved out to where the farming communities are, you know, and I think that that's from coming from being a farmer, and knowing somebody that has a hog farm, and people saying, well, the wind blows my way, you know, I smell it. Well, you don't live right next to it, but the wind could blow anyway. I think that we need to think about that as well.
And the thing is, it doesn't stop those types of uses. Just like your attorney says, you would.
I understand that, but if that man's owned those hundreds of acres in that area forever, you know, and they decide that they want to, you know, that the way to go is to put a chicken house right now on that farm to help them survive, and you have these ordinances in, and somebody that has built out there in a residential and says, well, none of the residents now want the chicken farm, but that gentleman's owned that property for a very, very long time and been a farmer, but he's now had to change the way he does farming. You know, that could definitely be an issue.
You're 100% right, but let me just sort of flip it another way, because I think what you're just saying is exactly right. But someone, such as myself, want to come into Oklahoma County and build me a nice home because this is where I want to live. Right now, I can go out in the county and find me whatever acreage I want and build it. If the county had zoning, land use controls, I could come here and I say, where is it I can build a home and be safe from those type hog farms, chicken farms, and things like that? And they could show me where to make that investment. So right now, that information is not available to someone that wants to come in here and build a house out into the county. They're just taking a chance. But you're right, you don't want to take it away from the long-time landowner that's been paying taxes and has a right to farm that. But
let me flip
before
it.
somebody invests that.
Yes, I appreciate you bringing that, but let me flip it in another direction.
Yes, sir.
Someone that's in the deep green there versus the light green, you have advantages and disadvantages on certain parcels of land for future development. I mean, the person that's outside may be at a disadvantage versus the person that, you know, can put whatever property. What about the guy that's just across the road right there in the dark green? No, you can't put commercial building there. You can't put whatever there. I mean, I think that we're tampering too much. And I've been upfront with you. That's why personally I'm out of that, because that's why people move into the county. It's for freedoms like that. And people that complain about the smell of a hog farm or a chicken house, they cook eggs in the morning and with bacon or sausage. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to come from somewhere.
You want all of those land uses, just like your attorney said.
Right.
Yeah, you want them all. And you have been straight up front.
And I've been up front. Yeah. If you want to tell me what to do with my property, then come pay the taxes on it.
Yeah, and I understand. And you and I don't take it personal.
Just an observation. I think we need to educate our public that all of this is not combined. Zoning is not the same thing as building code. Building code is not the same thing as subdivision regulations. So we need to educate our public and let them know these are actually pieces. So you know, we're not, so they don't think we're just meshing everything
That was
together.
the key in Lafayette County to getting zoning adopted, was educating the public. And that's what it's part of. We had good public input on the comprehensive plan. If you were looking at zoning, if you're looking at building codes, subdivision regulations, certainly the public's got to be a part of it and be adopted in a public hearing. But And I'll tell you what I'm here to do is to serve. I'm not here to tell you, hey, this is what you should, this is how you all should vote. It's up to you. I'm only here because I was invited to be here. I appreciate that opportunity and welcome any further opportunity to serve the county. But I'm here to give you my best advice and knowledge on land use controls for growing county and city, and work at your pleasure. That's what I'm here for.
I've got one question before you leave, and
I'm in no hurry. Y'all may be.
I know they're going to be in more of a hurry than you and I right now, but
Right.
I'll fast forward my question. I'm concerned of a particular type of business coming to our community, and I'll be very honest with you. I'm thinking of one right now, and I just don't want to say it.
I understand. I got you.
Is there a way for us to do a form of zoning that addresses, because you and I are on the same page in terms of
In a
farming
perfect
and-
world, this would work perfectly. I
Right.
get it, but the world's never perfect.
No, it's not.
Man's got to-
But also address a more unscrupulous type of business that I can tell you is not wholesome, nor is it farming.
Right.
But it's legal.
But it's legal. But it's legal. It is legal. Is there a way we can do this that balances those two interests out, so that we are able to keep the community standard that we want to keep, but also have to not harm our farmers, not harm our cattlemen or whomever. And I see that you've got dark green and green up there. Is there a potential in the closer you get to the city, maybe zoning as the outskirts of the city, and then as you move further out, that becomes less and less and less?
That's exactly what's happening right there.
Okay.
That's exactly what's happening right there. Now, remind me again your name.
Rob Robertson. Rob's fine.
Rob, I can answer your question in a legal way, how to do it, or is there another option that may work for 20 or 30 or 50 years until somebody might sue you over it, and then it might not work.
Right.
Because in Mississippi we have some small towns that want to control this, control that, and they adopt an ordinance and enforce that ordinance until, and then it's no longer. The best way, the legal way is that way. Now, that doesn't mean that you've got to tighten down on everything else. That conditional use would be the best way. Okay, you can either, we have a place for it. Here's where it could go as a conditional use. I wouldn't put it as an outright use anywhere,
Right.
really. I would sort of put it as a conditional use. And I believe that's what Lafayette County did when it came to commercial, and all the ag zones would allow that as a conditional use. Because you don't want to stop a Dollar General or something from going in, is exactly right. So it can be tailored for what you want. And just as Mr. President said, it doesn't need to be what Lafayette County has, it needs to be about what Activa County wants. And I couldn't agree more with that. But the best way is through a zoning ordinance. Now, you could put whatever you want to on paper, but good luck with it. And thank you.
Thank you for Mr. Slaughter. An additional question is not that we acknowledge Slaughter and Associate presentation. Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller, that we acknowledge.
Would you like Miss Emily to send you a copy of what we've already done?
Sure, that would be great.
Any
That would be
additional
great.
questions? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Now, in just one last closing, if I may, Mr. President, if you all decide you want me to look further into something, or whether subdivision regulations, or any other ordinances or regulations, y'all have my number, just let me know.
Let's say one question.
Yes, sir.
I'm dealing with it in a subdivision, and the subdivision's regulations don't cover it. It's unkept property. House burns to the ground, Sunset Community. Somebody moves out, somebody just doesn't feel like mowing the grass. And you got
We deal with that in Longview too, everywhere, you know.
Right now, the state, has a law on that, Rob, that can help with that, where the state law may be, not what a community wants. In my opinion, you can adopt a
We
separate
could adopt
independent unkempt property ordinance to address that.
With what we've got in place now, what Supervisor Howard had mentioned, can we add that to it? As
Yeah,
it
you
sits
can,
now?
because that's not a land use control, that's dealing with a potential public safety and health and welfare.
It's a nuisance.
Right, a
I
nuisance,
think
that's
we need to-
exactly right.
I'm just telling you, I've got, in Sunset, there's 10 or 12 properties that
We got some things we can do right now, Bill. We just got to.
I do.
We need to pass, we would need to pass a standard as to the ordinance of how we want to approach it, but the state law already allows us to do that. Now, there's local and private week that was done this year for Hattiesburg that, I need to look at it a little closer. I don't know if it actually passed the Senate side, but it passed on the House, where the, you don't have to go through the, you do have to give them some type of, notice and process for fixing it, but I think theirs became streamlined. But I may need to look at that a little closer, and maybe that we can work.
Some official
Probably that.
mail to them,
Right.
what have you,
can
constable,
streamline it.
what have you. to serve.
Wasn't an issue like this brought before the board?
Yeah, Main Longview.
Yeah.
And we never got,
We dealt with one before you all got on the board years ago.
Yeah.
We went down and cleaned up the project.
And we cleaned it up, and then we put, lien against the property, and before it could sell, they had to pay us back for our costs. It was safety hazard.
they have houses that are abandoned and left, and, you know, animal, and you get rodents, and the grass is high, and people next to them, they're experiencing an
Well,
overflow. It's,
And it impacts property values.
Sure.
And I don't care, hey, if you move out to the county, you deserve better than that,
yeah.
Being next door to
We
you.
had 4 or 5 Mondays right
Oh,
now.
I do too, and I get calls about it all the time.
I got a guy, he's pretty smart about it, but he'll take cans and put it in his driveway. And so as he drives in and out, he crushes his cans.
Really? I've never heard of that one.
Get them ready so you can sell them.
I was like, what are you
Get more
doing?
money in the bank.
We certainly think for everybody what they have to input. We certainly need a subdivision regulation, and we don't really need to wait.
Well,
In my opinion.
We have some
And
sort of.
we do have something, but, we need to see whether that something is really working and whether or not it's working for us. Because we think that there are other subdivisions that's gonna take place on Blackjack and Blacktop, and we need to be prepared. Supervisor Howard talked about, road usage and developing, turnoff lanes and things of that nature. That should not be left up to us.
That's right,
We should have something in writing,
that's right.
to
That
say.
you can enforce.
That we can enforce. So it's gonna be my wish that we allow, Attorney Robinson to, and maybe, and for you to contact, Attorney Robinson with some additional information about subdivision regulation, and let's see can we marry up what we already have with what we need to have. That's gonna be my motion anyway.
Would it be appropriate for me to say something on that?
Yes, go ahead.
What, if I were being retained by the county, to work, to assist the county in making the subdivision regulations happen that fit this county, what I would do is, and I typically do this because it saves time and saves money, I would probably start with the Fayette County subdivision regulations, because similar counties. I'd start with Lafayette County subdivision regulations. I would see what you currently have and assess that, and then I would work with your city attorney as well as your county engineer and bring to you, to this board, what we would recommend to this board consider. Then at that point, you'd be provided with the copy of those subdivision regulations to see if that's what you think. If this board wants to be part of the initial process, certainly that's your prerogative to do so. But I think what would be good to put in front of you is something that has been reviewed over, and it's something that we recommend to the board, but you review it and we explain it, and then you decide if this is really what you want, or do we need to tweak some things. Because
We did that once before, and that's how we ended up with what we got.
okay, but if it's not what you need, it needs to be taken to a higher level.
When we say subdivision regulations, would that cover development?
It wouldn't.
I keep, my mind
wouldn't.
keeps going back to
It
all these
wouldn't.
apartment
It
complexes.
wouldn't cover land use controls. It couldn't say you couldn't put a condo or apartment here, or
Right.
you couldn't put a commercial here. But it would say if you do put that use there, you gotta make sure the infrastructure's in place. to
Okay, and
handle it.
that's what I was
That's
more or
right.
less, yeah, okay.
That's right, that's what it would do.
If you will, my motion was not to, allow Mr. Slaughter to, be employed. If he has some information, like to volunteer, that would be fine. But I'm gonna withdraw my motion if someone want to, see a need to bring, Mr. Slaughter aboard to work along with our attorney, then I'll withdraw my motion.
Can't we just get the Lafayette County guidelines are obviously out there,
You can
we
get
could
them.
take them ourselves and compare them
You can do
with
that.
what we've got and,
Thank you.
you
And that's the thing. And that's the reason I told you exactly how I'm gonna do it. The thing is just making it happen, the sooner the better. And if y'all can do that in-house, then hey, that's fair to do. But if you need help to move it along.
I just think we need to read both and see how if they're
Yeah.
different, how they are.
Yeah.
What we did is, wasn't as restrictive if they did not want the roads adopted. So that's where we are lacking. We're saying, well, if you want our roads adopted, you gotta do this. But if not, well, you do like you please, as long as you got safe access for emergency vehicles. That's what the difference was.
We make it to
People
where-
are building subdivisions and they're still 911 roads, what we call them. We don't maintain them. And a lot of times the property owner that's selling the subdivision, when the person comes in and buys the property, they assume that the county is going to maintain their road. But we don't, because it was never adopted to our standards. So
Probably 10 years ago, my youngest daughter was at school here at State, and she lived out in that student housing, Clayton Village. Yeah, the Clayton Village on the south of the highway. Yeah. I remember driving through that, and I don't know if they're local or private.
No, they're private.
And I remember driving through that. Oh.
they're not my county.
And they're not what the public needs or public safety needs.
Well, let me
They
ask
were
you-
deployed, they were in bad shape.
Well, let me ask y'all this though, if you make it to where a new subdivision development, what have you, if you make them have to build a county road, do you think that's gonna help, hurt, or indifferent growth?
That was part of when we were talking about developments and requiring the developer to do this and that. We sort of weighed, okay, the money that's being pumped into the economy based on what we would require them to do up front, would that hinder, so all of that balancing was taking place and
I just don't know if, at the end of the day, the person that's gonna buy that lot is gonna pay that. In other words, if it costs $400,000 to go in there, make a road, turn around, come back out, what have you, for whatever development, then, and you put 15 lots in there, 400,000 times 15 is what more you're gonna pay for that lot. You see what I'm saying?
well, I guess when we're talking about the roads, though, first of all, they've gotta put a road into, so I don't
okay
know
with
how
a
much
911
more
road.
cost increase it would be to actually put it in the county standards while you're putting it in
Yeah.
as I don't know if that would be enough to run somebody off and say, well, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's
On
why
the
I'm
flip side of
asking.
that,
I'm not saying, oh, I got you, I'm just saying.
with their house, they
What
would
would-
think they were
Would
getting
it, would
that.
it,
Would you like my answer to that?
Sure.
Yeah, you would think
My
you would.
suggestion,
may not be
If
always.
you have internal local roads,
$1,200 for that.
if you have internal local roads in a subdivision or apartment complex or whatever, I think they should be built to a minimum standard so they don't fall apart, is what I think. I
A
think it should be.
minimum standard should exist for roads that we're not gonna adopt.
Exactly.
Right.
Whether they're private or local, a minimum standard has to exist, in my opinion. Now,
We do
now, if a development is fronting on Blackjack Road or Octok Road, it's my opinion, and other cities and other counties do this, that if there's improvements that need to be made to that infrastructure, that roadway out front of it, in order for it to handle your development, that cost should be on the developer.
Absolutely.
And not the citizens of this county.
Absolutely.
And not create a dangerous
We're
situation.
out there, don't we?
And I'm gonna tell you, Ocklawaha County has a market that's not going anywhere.
That's right.
And the developers know that we're vulnerable.
Hey, this is-
And they take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another thing, that this is not subdivision roads, but we just got done doing our thing about heavy haul, and then the state passed a law where it increased the weight. So now they can haul even heavier stuff on the highways,
90,000 now.
on our roads, and so, do we need to look at what we're doing to improve them even more, because, the weight limit
Roads
increased?
and bridges.
Yeah, cause it's not gonna hold up to
Yeah.
90,000.
It's up to us to keep
Excuse
legal
me,
weight
but,
able to pass on that. But it's hard
I
to do.
believe all of us, and I guess we can go on and on and on with this, but I think all of us agree that we need to revisit at least our subdivision regulation. And if you would, allow, board, if you would, allow, Attorney Robinson to revisit, those regulations and see whether or not that's really going to work for us. Because we don't want another blackjack situation, or an Octok Road situation that has started to develop already. So we don't want that to happen again. So if we could allow Attorney Robinson to at least look at our subdivision regulation and see what it is that we need to change within those regulations. And we might even need a work session to give Attorney Robinson some of the ideas that we think should happen. This is serious. These subdivision regulations is a serious step. And not, if the developer don't take upon themselves to build the necessary roadway, then Ocklawaha County is gonna have to do it. We don't want that to happen.
I agree, but I think you probably need to include Clyde in this discussion.
Yeah.
I would recommend that.
So we should have a
He's the
work
enforcement
session
right
that,
now.
Yeah.
On site.
Yeah.
He was involved with it the last time.
Yeah, he was involved with it.
He shouldn't be left out, that's for sure.
should be left out. That's right.
He did his due diligence out there on the subdivision, and I bet we're gonna roll as well.
But I just think it's like you said, it's time for a fresh look, see what we got, see what Lafayette has, and see if ours is up to standard, if we need to raise it a little more, and then if we decide we want to go a little deeper in it, get you back in to help us create that.
And I will tell you, and one last thing, and I'll get out of here before y'all have to throw me out, is that in Lafayette County, they have subdivision regulations, they have zoning ordinance. Oxford has that too. It hasn't shut development down. It's still blowing and going.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else I need to cover?
Do we need to include our road manager in on that discussion?
Yes.
And
So,
if you need my assistance along the way in any way, you got my.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you. Appreciate your service.
That's what I was on, my son was a Marine.
Okay, my brother was in the Marines.
Okay, good deal.
Thank you, everyone. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
and the board agrees, Attorney Robinson will work along with our road manager and work along with the county engineer to get a fresh look at our subdivision ordinance. Of course, later on, we might visit regulation for zoning, but now I believe we all agree that we need to do something with subdivision. Now,
Is that your motion?
that's my motion.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Howard, the crew, the road manager, and county engineer, we're working along with Attorney Robinson to take a look at our subdivision regulation. Do we have a second?
He said second.
He said you made
You
a
motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, thank you. Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard. Then we move forward with that. Any additional questions? All in favor? Well, guys, when you get to be over 60, you have to laugh at yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
66 when you get to be over every day. Okay. Move forward. Road manager report, Mr. Dagger. Thank you.
Morning, board.
Morning.
Everybody have a copy of the road manager report?
How's the pickup from the storm going?
We're getting close. I think we got about 9 roads that are really bad, and then some roads that just have spots on them that need to be picked up. It's coming on.
You know, we keep getting that email, you and I, about Big Creek Road. It's got the pictures of it flooding, and I did ask the foreman about it. And he said it always floods there. Would you make sure there's not a cross drain there though? Because in one of those pictures, the citizens sit you and I, it looks like there's a cross drain there that needs cleaning out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we preparing for grass cutting?
No. But hopefully by the time, the tractor was supposed to be coming in May.
That's very honesty.
Well, you have to wait so long after you spray anyway. They just got done, so
It's so wet out there right now, y'all, it's hard to even walk.
I can't spray mine. I can't cut mine yet.
I mean, I'm not,
I'm concerned about preparation too, whether or not we are prepared.
I just, well, we are
But
prepared.
what we're gonna do is, when we can get out there, we're gonna start cutting. I mean, we're not gonna wait. We're not gonna wait when herbicide man tell us we can start to cut. We're gonna get out and just make efforts to cut.
To our road, before we get going, is from that storm, way out on New Light Road. It really did a number on that section. Paul Clarity had done it right before I got in office. I can't take credit for that one. It's about a 400, 500 yard section through there. It really needs some maintenance on it because it just came all up. Kristen, out there, and I don't know if it'll qualify, but when the freeze happened, there's a certain spot there on New Light Road, almost to Maven Sturgis, right before the pavement ends, you may as well say, that it really heaved. If we can put some hot mix or something on that to fix that.
We're working on that today.
Yeah, I mean,
We spent quite a bit of time out there.
Do we have to wait? Y'all remember when I asked about that little small rock to put on some of those gravel roads? Do we have to wait for a bid to come back in, or can I go ahead and tell him the small road I want to try that on first? Did we ever get a cost on that? Hauling it from Muscle Shoals?
We did.
Can we do that? Can you?
We can.
Do I need to? I mean, we've already asked for that. Is that something else I need to readdress to the board as a whole?
I mean, that's some of your 4-year-old thing.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, I don't
Might
see
wait
it.
for all of it.
As far as purchasing equipment,
Yeah, it depends on if it's gonna be over $5,000, we've got to have 2 quotes. If it's gonna be over $50,000, we have to put it out to bid.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm just going to ask, because can you have purchase orders per day? That's how we do it. You know, is you can't spend over $5,000 per day, but you can haul it, and then haul so much one day and haul so much the second day. You know, since we're just hauling it in, and we have to have somebody spread it. But that's what I'm asking you. If it's not over 5,000 on a day, that's how we do it. You know.
Now, had already taken bids on it, and they would have to had to be determined to be the lowest bid
On this particular supply source, like
on this type of
rock.
yes.
Can we go ahead and get Miss Emily 2 bids on that? I know Muscle Shoals is where it comes from right now, but we please get 2 bids on that, quarter inch.
Get with me, Mr. Baggett and Deanna,
Yes,
and
what?
let's see if we can get, find out where we can get quotes for it from and what the description is.
Okay. We need to get
And I can bring you back from the horse park, you can look at it, but and that's where they go get it, but it sets up like concrete, you know. But you can grade it if you need to, it's really easy to manage, but I promise you, people will not be complaining near about if we can put it on some of the sections. And some of these, what I plan on doing is after we've looked at it on one road, is some of these sections, these roads that I know we'll never have $10 million to pave them, you know, but residents are in the center. You know, I'd like to put it in that center section where those residents are and leave the other ends gravel where the log trucks are hauling, because at least those residents won't be in that gravel like they were before.
Does it reduce the dust?
It does.
So what's the difference between that and the slag from the steel mill?
From what?
The slag from the steel mill, what's the difference?
I don't know. It's called a quarter inch. I think this is like it's cement. I mean concrete.
Like a limestone type.
It's a cement. It's a real small like cinder block something, but it's just a quarter inch. And when after you put it down and cars drive over it, I mean it doesn't. You know how gravel will move away? It doesn't move.
You can't grade it.
You can grade it. So you just need we just grade ours with a box, not a box straight blade,
Land leveler.
but it's a land leveler. Is all we have on the back of the tractor, and it rolls it up beautifully.
And then what about?
That 1/4 block or something, which don't mean nothing to me.
We had some type of material put out on our church parking lot once. It was grayish looking. Is this grayish looking?
It's great.
It's used for like
Crusher
parking
run.
lot, from what I read
Well,
about
it
it.
wasn't crusher run. It was something that's supposed to get run out in a lot. But I want to ride out. What did you say that's
It's
at?
all the way around the horse park.
It's the your parking lots.
Down in the bottom, where I could, all where the barns are, where the horses are walking and the people are walking, all down there. So, but if we need, I'd like to get 2 quotes. I'd like to really try it. I've got 2 little short roads that we could try it on, one here closer and maybe one out kind of in the Great Springs area, and try and see if we like it. And then if not, what I'd like to do is, set up times and push that gravel back, which would give us excess gravel on the other ends of these roads where those residents live, on these gravel roads that, they want to get paved, but we will never have $10 million to pave one road, and put that in that area for them so they're in front of their homes. It's so much nicer.
Yeah, I think that material has some type of magnetic character to it. Because I put some on my driveway, and it's the only thing that stays.
Question.
Barnes Dirt's using it, so we might have to give it to them to get the description.
Quarter inch rock is what he called it.
1/4 inch rock.
I mean quarter inch, and it comes from
Rock.
quarter inch. I don't know, quarter inch is.
Yeah.
1/4 something, but Muscle Shoals, it comes from over in Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
I'll call him today.
Okay. And that would be, here's the other thing is, do we have enough trucks to free up to go over there and get it? Because it weighs a lot because it's so fine, you know what I'm saying? But it's such a fine to it where you put clay gravel, you fill the truck all the way up, but this, obvious for weight, you're probably not going to be able to fill it all the way up because it's so dense when you dump it. So could we get a price of hauling too? So like if we wanted to do a project with this, we could do one road in one day and say, okay, we've got, could we get a price for us hauling it, what it just costs for us to go get it, and then also get a price for another company to haul it for? Do we have a hauling cost? Like just say if we wanted to outsource a local company just to haul it for us, do we have a
I
cost?
think this comes
A mileage cost? Do we have a mileage cost to use another company to help?
We don't.
You can just see what another company would cost to
I think
bring
this
it as
company
opposed to
costs-
what it would cost,
Well, and I mean, that's something that you can ask Mr. Burns too when you call him, but they, what they charge, you know, per mile, what they would charge to haul it, I don't know. I'm sure they're fixing to get in their busy season too. That's all I was thinking was, you know, if we got multiple projects going on and we wanted to do this on a road, lining everybody up to haul that product on one road, it would take all of our dump trucks at one time.
Does it go down being hard, or is it after it gets wet it gets hard?
Well, you want water on it when you, I mean, you can spread it when it's dry. It's harder to spread when it's super wet, but you want it to go down. But even when it, you know, after it drives on it, it just packs it. It's something similar to that.
Great. When Mr. Baggett talked to Barnes, he can get all the details. If Barnes is using a lot of this, Barnes will fill him in on all the details.
We've been using it there for years and never, just all I had to do was, lately with as much rain as we had and with us having all of the people come through for vaccines, I had to add a little bit in some areas, you know, but just sticking it up, but never have to do anything, and you don't even have to grade it as often. But and here's another thing about it. Normally we're grading roads when it's dry. This material grades a little bit better when it's wet, when it's had some rain on it. You know, you can just roll the top of it and it just, but you don't grade it like a road where you grade two sides and pull it back to the middle. All you do is you just take it's a blade, but it's you know, it's not a straight box blade, what you're thinking, but it's a square, it's actually just a square. And it just rolls it over the top of it and kind of flushes it and freshens it up.
Well, Samantha, could you come back to the board on our next board meeting with some information about who can possibly haul and spread?
Okay.
And provide, haul and spread.
Now we'd have to go in advance if we pick a road and take the motor grader and pull that gravel back and load it up. But the nice thing about it is, because you want to put this more, you can put other gravel underneath it, don't get me wrong, but what we did at the horse park is we just pushed the gravel out of the way and thickened it up in some other areas that we needed it. Of course, we just did it with tractor and the box blade, you know, but you just take a grader and there, if we're going to do this, and push that gravel to the other ends of those roads and then go down and put this on. I'd like to try it on a couple roads and see if it would be an answer to some areas.
If it works, well, then we can all do it.
Yeah, you want to try. Maybe when Mr. Bagley come back with some information, we can all the motion and move forward with getting that 1/4 inch stone installed on some of the gravel roads.
Okay, I spoke with MDEQ regarding burning debris, and the bottom line is we can't do it. They say you can do it on the right of way, 500 yards away from the house. We don't have that much right of way, so it's not practical to think that we're going to be able to grub the roads that we have to and burn the debris. It's going to have to be hauled off and hauled to the landfill.
I'm sure that's something we can recover.
Well, burning it right there as we grow up, is that what we were?
Well, I was thinking that any way we could do it. And they said that's the only way we can do it.
We can't burn it unless we burn it side the road.
No, that's what I'm saying though, but all of this money is recoverable money.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we do it in time.
Right, unless we do it for a 4-year road plan.
Oh, you,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
storm damage.
Yeah,
So-
storm damage is
So
recoverable.
the storm that
Yeah.
to go on through the summer then, yes, I can understand that bill.
You should have 6 months after the declaration to get your work done.
Do you have that, did you have to already give your project names and identify where it was, or do you get
All
to?
the cleanup is considered emergency work.
Okay.
That's part of your debris cleanup.
Okay, so that's fallen stuff that you can't go out and grub it and,
Right.
yeah, that's fallen stuff.
And another issue is, gentlemen, that said, I want to bring the garbage can issue up, but we running out of garbage cans really fast. And we have our last allotment at the road department right now. And based on what they're telling us at the place where we give them.
I got another request this morning. They picked some more up on Friday when they came through down in the Sturgis area.
And I want to say something else too, is what's really unfair to us, and I guess where we may need to ask our representatives to separate this is if it's a new house, that's not really replacing a can, that's a new can. So I mean, and that's where, I know in my area, you know, with the school district being as one now, there's a lot of people moving out, okay? So I would say probably 2/3 or more of my cans are new homes, or, you know, the garbage man, he just, and I know we can't monitor every single, you know, truck picks them up and how they pick every single can up, but they're rough on them. Hey, I saw the guy pick it up, you know, somebody, and he dumped it out or whatever, and it broke the top, and it broke one of the ears off. So I mean, how they're handling the cans and our new growth is what's getting us above that number of 500 a year?
Did we go to 600?
600.
Oh, we went to 600. We did go to 600.
And when's the fiscal year over with?
September, I think. September, October.
October 1st, it starts.
They're gonna say, well, like their house count isn't coming up that much.
Huh?
They're gonna say the house count that they're billing for is not coming up that much.
Well, we agreed on a number, didn't we?
Yeah.
Didn't we all
Well,
agree on a number?
No, it depends on, it fluctuates.
It's the current
because
number.
of,
Yeah.
renters.
Well, I thought we said we were gonna put something in there and that we were gonna monitor.
Well, they have a live number. I call it the live number there at the PDD. And Jennifer and the girls do a great job keeping me informed. I don't know about the others. They say they call, you know, others. But she does a great job now working with Mary Ann to keep that number live, and they're in agreement. But I guess the next thing would be, we can't help new growth, or if a company that picks it up for us, the Golden Triangle, if they tear up a can as they pick them up.
And I can address that, but
Yeah.
you said he picked it up, did he not put it on the truck right, or what?
Oh, they'll take it and
It's
push them, they fling them.
It's plastic cans.
It's a plastic can.
Hot, cold, I mean, it's just gonna
Yeah.
take them.
There's times
And
where
how
it
do you
works.
handle garbage?
I mean,
Well,
No, I did say, but I will say, on Supervisor Montgomery's point, most people that call me say, you ought to see them sling them around, they're in my ditches, you know what I'm saying? So they, you know, I don't think their main focus, I think their job is, they think their job is to pick the trash up, not how delicate we handle the cans. Maybe they don't, I mean, they're doing their job. They're picking up the trash, they're putting it in the truck, and they're slinging that truck, and they're moving fast to get it all done. You know, they're slinging that garbage can back to wherever it goes, wherever it lands, how it lands, it lands.
a lot of times what'll happen is, especially like my house, I was coming to a garbage meeting one morning, and the guy picked it up. I live on the side of the highway, and he took it and rolled it off, and then just pushed it off the, you know, and there's a, I don't know, about that far fall off. It fell, flipped, plop, plop, plop. And I was in my county truck, and I pointed to the Oktibbeha County, and I said, you know, really? He just waved, smiled, and gone. And it just,
you know, and I've talked to Mary Ann about the handling, how they handle the can. It's sort of, you know, and not, it's sort of in defense of them and Mary Ann. They have turnover over there. That's not the sexiest job in the world.
I get it.
You smelling garbage. It's raining and snowing.
On the back.
It's not 110 degrees in the summertime. And I have seen them. They get the can and they rush over there and they hook it on the truck and they dump it and they slide it. Every now and then they'll somebody, but they have different employees. It's hard to keep
I get it.
good employees on at the rate of pay they make, at what they're making. And
Well, that's what y'all need to be, so not the symptom, but focus on the problem.
Yeah.
Pay the folks.
So about how,
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any control of that now. I mean, but
could we, I believe we can order cans twice a year. Could we look into talking to Mary Ann about possibility of getting another order in, or we can't wait until the end of the fiscal year?
I think what she told him, we got our 600 for the year.
that's right. That's
Let's see if we revisit that conversation and see what we can do.
And right now, I think we have about 59.
What's the contract say?
600 a year.
No, I mean, does it say anything else? Does it say anything about the, you know, that was one thing we had talked about before, because they actually were supposed to be addressing the canned delivery too. Does it say anything in there anymore?
We'd be in a mess. But see,
Oh, I
and I'm
understand that,
going
I'm just
back
saying.
I'm going back to, see, you remember when we started saying, well, they supposed to pick up the damaged garbage can and replace? Well, they started picking up damaged garbage can and replace, and we ran out of garbage cans like that. So all of a sudden it was, whoa, stop. We ran out of garbage cans already. So we gotta strike I mean, listen, Mayor is working hard.
Yeah.
And we are addressing problems. Things have gotten a lot better. I'm gonna tell you, it's dealing with employees that work for a month, gone, and you have to replace drivers, route drivers, that come and go, and they don't know the route real well, so this new route driver will now miss a couple of, you know, it's an ongoing situation. I think part of the problem is, if we enforce what it says, a person's supposed to pay for another garbage can. If we, but how do you go to a person and say, well, you've had this garbage can 15 years, and now the top's broken, you gotta pay for another?
Do they not have a lifetime span that you trade one in and get another one? My place said 20 years.
Yeah, something, and listen, I have picked up garbage cans to where the individual worked on that garbage can, they made that thing last as long as they could. There's no way I'm gonna tell them they gotta pay for it. Now that would solve a lot of us running out of garbage cans, if you all as a board decide you wanna do that. Enforce that law, make people pay for a new garbage can.
If they haven't,
But I'm gonna tell you,
The law made them pay for trash bills they didn't have service for, based off electric.
Well,
costs.
I'm just saying, as a board, my vote's gonna be no, but at 3 votes is all it would take to say.
I am not gonna vote for no more garbage routes.
well, let me tell you, here's the reason I wouldn't vote for that, and I get what you're saying is, let's say everybody in this room were honest individuals. And then I look up and my can's gone. Because a dishonest individual said, well, I'm not paying $100 for another can or whatever it is. I'll just go down the road and take Rob's. He's got a brand new shiny can. That's happened before.
And that's happened.
Even in the midst of a zero cost anything, I've seen neighbors, you know, somebody call me, my neighbor took my can. Well, I go over there and it's obvious, you know, I put the can for this person and the neighbor thought, you know, I'm just saying, that would,
That's a better looking can, I'm taking that one.
that was my,
I'll get my can number.
You all will talk to the board and see if y'all get us a few extra cans before we run.
You know,
But I need to know, because we're not, then I need to get my sob story together.
let me tell you, here's how I do it. Here's how I do
Call
it.
me.
This is what I would do. Here's the evidence.
I think
Well, here's the evidence, and that's why I'm trying to help y'all. Here's the evidence that I would draw from. Is go to the PDD and get Jennifer to show you on a spreadsheet or print it out how many new homes this year, not the deletions. That just brought us back within what we should be paying. Is how many new houses countywide have happened. If it's 187, whatever the number is, if it's 400, whatever that number is, then whatever the number is, because I know in my district, a lot of the cans I take are, hey, I got a brand new house built. Then
Jennifer and Mary Ann is supposed to be,
and they aren't working.
rectifying the count on a monthly basis. What we did was remember back here when we were trying to come to a consensus on the house count, we did that. Then, you know, we said, okay, listen, there's a certain percentage of increase here, so we feel like the garbage cans should increase that, and we did that. So now we're still running out of garbage cans. So I don't know what the problem is. What do y'all think the problem is now that we continue to run out of garbage cans?
I just think next year you just up your allotment. And kind of like the usefulness. If you know we got how many different, well, we got 6,000 X number.
7,100.
Okay, so
8,400 that we built.
how long you expect the can to last? 5 years, 10 years?
20 years, mine lasts 20 years.
No, not what yours lasts, but what's the life expectancy of it?
I'd say 5 to 7.
Okay, well, this says it's 7 years. Each year you ought to be replacing 1/7 of the total can.
Correct, yeah.
That ought to be the number you ought to order each year. And then you ought to have that on hand. And you're not gonna give people a can if the can that need to be, if there's nothing wrong with it. But each year you ought to be ordering one, if you expect them to last 5 years, you ought to order 1/5 of your total allotment every year.
Okay.
And be prepared to replace those.
And I don't think that would be a problem. As you all know, it's gonna cost the company, or Mayor Ann, who to order more garbage cans for us. I don't think they'll have a problem ordering if our county says we're willing to pay that extra cost to get more garbage cans.
I wouldn't have a problem considering that talk, but at the same time, when we set a new can at a new house, that's a new customer.
That's true.
You can add that to your life.
Yeah,
You
can add that
anticipate
in.
100 new customers a year, 75, just based on historical trends.
Because you can look at that in October Hall, Lowndes, and Webster. You can look on there, and I guarantee you, October Hall County makes the lion's share of profit for the organization. From when I was in it, what I saw. And
I think.
well, I know,
yeah.
I mean, I know because Lowndes, see, Columbus is separate.
And Lowndes doesn't have garbage cans.
And they don't have cans, and I know Starkville's separate from us, but Lowndes or Columbus, really, it does carve a huge hole out for them. What I saw was we were more profitable than Lowndes did. Now maybe it's a little different now, but
we've tried to work out some system to be fair about how we're doing these cans. Absolutely, when new customers come aboard, there's a $13 fee that we collect from them. Certain amount of that goes to picking up. So yeah, automatically that should a new garbage can should be able to be furnished for that new customer for that fee.
We appreciate your input, Guy, Supervisor Montgomery, Supervisor Howard, all of you had good input on how do we get additional garbage can and be able to serve our constituents. Now, Marvell is a very good person on the board, so if you have additional information that you'd like to share that can present a good argument, so we can get additional cans, then please call him up and give him that information. Call me too, because I want to have that same information. Both of us sit on the same boat.
Yeah, correct.
So we always debated on your behalf. We'll continue to do so. So, with that in mind, we'd like to continue on with the road manager's report.
Okay. Now, I know we ready to start talking about garbage cans, but now how are we gonna divvy the ones that we have up?
have you kept up with who's gotten how many?
Yeah, but, how, because I can't police my bosses.
I would say first come, first served, but I don't need to come down there and get 15 cans and take somewhere.
I was gonna say, well, I'll
It be first come, first served.
How many cans are down?
60.
Yeah, I think we got about 60 now.
Are y'all recording
10
where y'all
apiece.
put these
10 apiece.
cans?
Give me 10 cans and I'll.
Give everybody 10 cans and then.
I guess them are equal to whatever we got.
Divide equally.
I'll come with my 10.
All right.
And that's it, right? That's
But I
the
still
whole
think
600?
I don't have a problem with that. But if I need some and you got 10 sitting at the house, you need to give them.
That's right.
If I got people paying and I say, well, look, you got 10 cans.
But I've always shared.
My cans are sitting at the shop, so you can leave my 10
Well,
cans
now,
there.
listen, I've always shared.
But I'm not going to get them unless it's needs. I'm not going to give them that long.
What happens when you come get mine, then I get a call.
I'm gonna tell you this, after they're gone, it won't take long that we'll all have requests enough that we'll be finding a way to get some cans.
Just leave, and we'll move on from this. But just leave me with the option, leave me and Joe with the options of knowing that we can say, well, we are willing to pay for some more garbage cans.
But
And
then too,
it's all.
in conjunction with that, we do all the lids, and we all the wheels. So some of these garbage cans just need to be repaired.
Well, that's the thing, that's saved on a few of them, is we do need more wheels and axles and lids and the little clips.
Right,
Because
right.
you're right, if somebody says, I got a can that's tore up, and I go out there
Good
and I
can.
see that I can fix it, I fix it.
That's it. That's right.
I know
Let's
that's
keep that,
exactly
let's keep that in mind too. Okay. In additional questions for the road manager report, if not, I have, something pertaining to, the knuckle boom pickup. When that debris was picked up on Harris Road, does that include, and you might not have this information right off, but does that include the picking up of some old, furniture, couches that's on Harris Road that people just throwing up, piling up? If not, if it doesn't include it, will you look into the possibility of getting the furniture picked up off Harris Road?
Yeah, I think we did pick some up, but then some was a bit off the right of it, and we didn't go out there. But we did pick some rubbish, other than debris, up off of Harris Road. You know, that hill, and you go up the hill there to your left, that's kind of off the right.
Supervisor Trainer can give us some information on that. Then we have some funding for, the, dispose of and pick up debris.
There's
And I don't know whether that could take us off the right of way if we do have those type of funding for, garbage pickup like that.
We've gotten over to some of the public creeks and things of that nature, with our solid waste systems, funding, things like that. I don't know if we have any dollars left to get, or we do
We have
like.
dollars left, but we can't go up in people's yard and just pick up the stuff that they don't want to and put out there. We have illegal dump site money.
Like tires.
Somebody throws out a bunch of junk every
Illegally
tree.
just throwing it off. We don't go and pick up at people's.
Y'all make sure you let the sheriff's department know first so they can look through the garbage
That's
and
the
see the
same
rest
thing
is off
we're
of
talking
it.
about.
Okay.
Illegal dump site.
Okay.
And this is a legal dump site. They just dump everything that they can think of at this location. So with that in mind, it might be a little small, not much off the right of way, but it is right around the fence area. But I agree with Supervisor Miller. We really need to look through some of that material and try to check the person who is making the illegal dumping.
Is it on, I'm assuming it's on, is the property owner aware? Is the property owner aware that there's illegal dumping going on? Or do you know?
The property owner is gonna be responsible somewhat. So the property owner is responsible for getting it off their property to start with.
How do they go about it?
They clean up their property. We
Well, that's
clean it up off
something
the right of way.
Yeah, but if somebody comes and dumps, if they take a dump trailer or whatever, to pull up and then they dump it on, say I dumped it on Brickley's land there on the road, and then it blows it 8 or 10 feet up in there, it's still my fault, it's not Brickley's fault.
Well, Rick mentioned that you need to get we need to get the names and everything so we can call the people. A lot of times by getting the names of the stuff that's dumped, they will come back and we call them, they'll come back and get it.
I had to have to.
Well, I'll tell you, just share on this just for a second, but, we had that happen on one of the roads out there, and we looked through and found out, and when I called the gentleman, he was horrified that his children, instead of taking the trash to the dumpster where they were told to take it, that they threw it out on the side of the road, and he made them come back and pick it up. So,
Yes.
We may have had to have.
And we
And a
had
fella
it.
dumps it.
We'll check
Man,
it.
I can fire that fella.
I will, since I brought it up, I will help you try to identify the land owner, and then we move forward in that direction. But if it's a legal dumping area, I believe we can go off the right of way and pick that material up, am I right?
Well, we just have to, we have to do some due diligence. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You know, with the dilapidated property and cleaning up property, that sort of thing. We just have, we have some procedure out there, we just wanna make sure we're in order, whatever we're doing.
Because when I think of illegal dump site, I think of somebody has constantly gone to a creek somewhere out of the way and dumped stuff over. I don't so much think of it as somebody has ridden down the road and threw 2 bags of garbage over it. I don't know if that would be classified.
There's a difference between littering and illegal dump
illegal dump
sites.
sites. Now I have a little problem right after, for a while after deer season, where those deer dumpsters have set, people automatically start to just throw. And for a while, once that dumpster is gone, people are still came and just, but, you know, there's a couple of times, I picked up a bag of garbage the other day on the side of the
There's a bag
road.
on my truck now, I picked up.
I got one
And
on
I tell you
my
how it
truck
got
too.
there. Somebody was just like I was, they put it on top of the car. When they got to the road, they forgot about it.
Yeah.
And so when I came, I picked it up. So if y'all get, if people take pictures of me around town, hauling hay and everything with the county truck, I'm picking that stuff off the road. So,
But yeah, if there's, landowner got a place secluded and somebody's easing in there all the time and
Yeah.
dumping, that's a,
Yeah.
that's a illegal dump site, yeah.
We had
That's not what
one
we talking about.
out, I don't know if it's in your district or your district, that there was a lumber company on the property, and people had piled up there for years and years. And, the lumber company that owned the property had to clean it up, and a family that had been just allowing people to dump there and never doing anything, they had to clean it up.
Yeah.
Because the money, what it was gonna cost for the cleanup was more than what the county had in our illegal dump site cleanups.
okay.
Like a supervised trainer, we just have to do due diligence on.
Do we have any additional questions, comments with the road man?
Just continue to pick up the storm damage, New Light Road, maybe Sturgis Road area.
Everybody, that truck is,
It is a handy thing, one person can do it. 3 or 4 used to do it.
you know, we look into this stuff.
Don't have any additional questions or comments, could I get a motion to accept the road man?
So move.
Motion by Supervisor Gomez, second by Supervisor Trainer, that we accept the road man. So all in favor? Motion carries 5-0. If it pleases the board, I hate to keep everyone for 2 hours in a meeting without a small break. If it pleases the board, could we take a 5-minute break or something? Then
When we reach that 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
we get a motion, yeah, we carry that, motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor, Howard, that we take a 5-minute break. All in favor? Motion.
All right.
No, I'm just kidding.
Turn into 3.
Okay. I just monitor this and try to help them get out.
I get with the old days here. Okay. And I was wondering, I was wondering how so what I'm saying is that brings a little different dynamic to it. Because people coming in for it. Now, I don't know what my daughter was down there. She went down there early, and I don't know what time she came back. She's grown, right. She don't stay with the no. But she called that car, they got across my there. And
Miss Rose, how you doing?
my wife, she's probably not there. It's 20,000 folks to say that. But it was called as far as I could see. Yep. But I'm just glad that the damage is out. That little spot out there on Curtis County Road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I'll take care of it.
Yeah, we might got,
Appreciate all you do.
we might got to figure out now that we discussed it, and they got one way in, one way
Yeah,
out.
they had dual lanes coming in yesterday.
Yeah.
But you know, but people trying to come in, spectators, and sometimes come in with the outfit.
Right.
And man, it's just,
So what we try to get to do is shut one of them off for entrance when people start trying to leave. Because what happens is when everybody's coming in those two things, people can't get out, that one is blocked up, now traffic's backed out, it's road.
I don't know how much traffic you get, I think, with that thing, but, you know, and I know they was used to, that was one of the specialty, I don't know that it's something like it is, but I think they talk about Easter, Mother's Day,
4th of July,
any holiday, they fall that weekend, and go back. I'm gonna say a decent 4 or 5 weeks.
right. Yeah, we put that ordinance in place, and I'm telling you, it comes up there every year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, he's got his camera.
He had an armed, I guess he had law enforcement.
Yep.
You know that.
Yep.
But you know, they hold like 5 to gas to do the gas. 15 or so. But you know, there's people want.
We're trying to
Where's
keep
Harris
the
Road?
roads safe. That's the big thing we're trying to do.
What's Harris Road connect to?
Traffic light, and all that kind of stuff. That is important.
Looking on Land Glide until you
And
know,
they used to
it's showing where it is.
whoever it is.
Out there,
But I'm not glad that.
on the chapel hill or somewhere in there. Just gone, sometimes chair, papers not on there.
Sharon did review about her.
Harris off of Williams.
I mean, you know,
I didn't run down in there and run back to.
I watch the trial. Look at both sides.
There it is, I found it.
Really?
Where's that?
It's, runs off Chapel, yeah, Chapel.
Law enforcement, courses.
Yep.
Well, if you can tell me where it is on the road, I can tell them they're going to.
The legal ramifications.
Yeah, I got it all straight line. I don't know, almost last time was last.
Like folks don't have no ears. They go,
Give us strength, things that.
Hey, we need to address the mask thing.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people asking about.
Yeah, me too, and not just that, you know, the CDC now says if you've been vaccinated, you're 100%, and we've had, whatever I told y'all, however many people be vaccinated already in the county. Yeah, 12,130, but
I know
the
too
thing
much
is,
about me.
the thing well, the thing about it is we've had, what,
Yeah, so far.
12,000, and you can get your vaccine anywhere, you know, and we've had our most vulnerable already be vaccinated. Hey, the guy that y'all caught Nathan out there, that had the budget rental truck, he stole Dana and them's four-wheeler the night it was storming. Did y'all find the four-wheeler yet?
No, do we know that he stole it?
Yeah,
So they know that?
I think they
They were
do.
fixing to interview him when I was coming up here. That dude's dangerous.
He, well, they had him on the security church camera across from her, but, and he stole it. They knew that it had to be somebody that knew about four-wheelers because the ears are real strange on their four-wheeler.
That's one from South Carolina or somewhere.
Yeah.
Where's the dude from? Well, we dealt with a few years ago, who had been in South Carolina.
But now he's the one on the Greenbrier chat board too, isn't he? And he been working in Greenbrier too in that budget truck?
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, not Greenbrier.
I'm not
Greenbrier's
talking
on further south, south.
Grandson?
He's in Grand, he's singing Grand, that was driving slow. I don't know anything about Grand.
I think he was on the chat board, the community chat board in
I
Greenbrier.
don't know if you're talking about it being in that area, but, you know, Boo Crowley sent me a bunch of pictures.
What we got on, the air conditioning?
Well, he's figured out that he can pull those property up in that budget truck. It was in the church parking lot.
I thought it was
Across
getting
from
chilly,
our
I
friend's
wouldn't
house.
ever get cold.
And there was a bicycle just laying there in the pasture, so they just started a bicycle and it went off work.
It was real hot when we came
And,
in.
Oh, was it?
A little bit, yeah.
I got a jacket, I'm about to burn up. You can have my jacket if you want.
Yeah, I knew you were I'm trying to
I thought I can over rude.
I turned it off later.
Here, just a second.
Okay, thank you. I never understood that the light on the wall was like the flames inside.
I cooled it off, so I could.
If I'd known you was a newspaper girl, I wouldn't have given you that. I'm teasing you.
Yes, she's got, no CD purchase.
Oh, goodness.
Well, since we have been 2 hours, maybe the second part will be quicker.
There you go.
I think we have everybody present, so we can call the meeting back to order.
So moved.
So moved by, Supervisor Governor, second by Supervisor Miller, and the board call back to order. All in favor? Motion carried. Okay, here we go, Mrs. Livingston is not with us today, so,
She did
Ms.
tell
Garrett is
me.
gonna take over from here and inform us about everything else, including something with Ms. Livingston.
We had no CD purchase for the month of March. The funds remained in the depository account.
Make a motion.
Second. Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Jones. No CD purchase. No. All in favor? Motion carried.
I have payroll changes as in your packet.
Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Gorman, on payroll change.
Here it is.
Second. All in favor?
Yeah.
All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Third quarter budget allocations for the sheriff's department, senior township, and in order for the budget allocation.
Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Jones, that we approve, the Sheriff's Department allotment. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
We had held a Center Grove public hearing last week, the last board meeting. I need to order to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Gorman, that we approve the minutes of Cedar Grove here. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
There's just something. Got, a resolution from the Tom Bigby River Valley Management District for the, drainage improvement on Skinner Creek. I need an order to approve that.
I do have one question.
Did y'all look at that? I want to address that.
Well, I got one question. Is this from, in other words, did the Tom Bigby board say that we need to do these, or did the individual supervisors go out?
No, I'm getting these from the Tom Bigby.
Well, because they said that, yeah, and Mr. Kenner said that he would look at Oktibbeha County as a whole, how to fit into the district and systematically start doing it.
Yes.
Okay.
I got the one for Skinner Creek first. I need to order to approve that resolution.
Well, I just want to mention real quick, so I asked him when he called and told me he was gonna submit this. I said, well, that's already a section that's been looked at, and he said there had been some trees that had fallen in there, and since they did such a good job cleaning up the creek banks when they went through there, but it does go further, if you notice that, further down the creek, that they were just gonna run through there and pick up those trees that had fallen since the storm. So I did ask him why we were going back and re-looking at that, just when he called me and said that he was out there. He said, this is so nice, you can get right to it. And I said, because we've already had it worked on. So that was his reasoning.
I'll get a motion on Skinner Creek approval. Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Miller, that we move forward with the Skinner Creek drainage improvement. All in favor? Motion carried.
Got one for Shaw Creek also. I got from them Shaw Creek drainage improvement resolution.
Shaw Creek is in my district.
Okay, I need to,
And I had him to come out and review that creek, and it is flooding out a lot of houses. And that's gonna help a lot of people from getting flooded. I mean, they actually get flooded out, where the water's up to their house, and they can't get home.
I'm just glad they're making progress, or put things on the list, different creeks on the list before summer gets here.
Well, they have to start on that side because
And that's what he told me
everything
too.
drains that way.
I asked him about some of those other creeks on Courthouse and stuff, he said he had to start further down before he could get to that, so.
They're gonna help. They're gonna help get this out too.
Second.
Most of my supervisors, never second my supervisor.
I do have one question. In other words, like for instance, with Skinner Creek, they had that right there. So we have a little, we didn't have a,
Did he send them out to Shaw Creek?
maybe
he
he
did
will
not
later.
send them out with Shaw Creek, and he also, I understand, when I send these back, they're going to be sending some more information to start us where we need to get the easements to get on the property, supervisors.
Now, Sun Creek was submitted about a month ago,
They
has they
said,
not?
they said that these, I asked about that, told him I didn't get those information, he said these are little cheap ones, and they went right on this one, and that's the best explanation that I got. That it's gonna cost more on that one.
On
and
the Sun
these-
Creek
Mhm.
deal?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Shaw Creek just got one location.
Yeah, I understand,
That they need
but
to,
I understand.
that they need
I'm
to clean
asking,
out.
I'm asking where we at since that one was submitted almost a month ago.
I have been told that these are automatic approvals, that they're the.
Those are under the amount,
Has
that's
to
go to the
go
board.
before the whole board or something, and that they will send me easement information to start getting.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
give them a call.
You
I'll
might
give 'em a
ought
call.
to give them a call.
I do have another question, I guess kind of on Supervisor Howard's line, but I guess a little different is, Mr. Kenner, David Kenner is our representative, and then we have a second. But can we maybe ask those representatives to come to our board maybe twice a year?
Sure.
What have you, to give us an update, hey, this is kind of where we're at, these are some projects I'd recommend, you know, what have you.
This is why we,
This is the method to, this is our reason.
Yes, right, definitely.
So whoever our appointments are, just ask them maybe if they would come in
Okay.
the next couple of months, what have
That's a good observation.
you. Yeah, I mean, just, I don't know where they wanna go, but just give us a reason and just why go with it. Or not go.
I just assumed y'all had all had conversations with them when I received this stuff. Okay.
but see, I was under the impression that Sun Creek was gonna be easy, and they was gonna go ahead on and jump in there.
I remember that.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden we can't
Can't do that.
Well,
We
he just
changed.
called me and said he was looking at other projects in other areas and was gonna walk that, so I didn't even know he was here. So, anyway.
I mean, we went up Sun Creek, we walked it a half a day.
I
All the
think
way
that
down.
Sun Creek is gonna be top priority, but.
It has to go before the big full board for approval.
It's me, yeah, it takes more of an approval on that one, and I'm
And the
telling
smaller
y'all
project.
about the easements.
Okay, I'll ask him, I mean, and then we gotta get easement regardless, on all projects though. But I'll give him a call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
Budget amendment to the road department for insurance settlement that we got to repair a truck.
First amendment.
Need to order for it.
What's it for?
We got $8,866 from the insurance to repair a vehicle that was wrecked on Dwayne Johnson on Artesia Road. Need to order, put it back in the budget line.
I'll make that.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. To approve the amendment. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Next thing I have is, we met with, Major Andrews and Ryan, Ashford from the Major Design Studios about doing a facility assessment study, and he had sent back their price proposal on what it would cost to do it. If the board is wanting to move ahead with that, we need to approve this.
What's the cost?
Copies in your packets.
Oh,
$12,000.
How much?
$12,000.
I didn't see that.
Fixed fee of $12,000.
It's up there in the first
Okay.
paragraph.
Oh, the big bold letters. Okay.
Maybe it's gonna be
Do we know, I know it kind of talks about them, but, I mean, are they actually, they say review it, but are actually they gonna give us the data after they review it? I mean, will we have everything we know we need?
It says in here, present the study.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Will we have, I guess that's my question. Are we just paying, are we getting the reviews and the information presented to us after this for $12,000?
Yeah.
Is that y'all's understanding?
Yeah, when we
You
talk
won't
with
get plans now, you won't get graphic designs or.
No,
anything like
but
that.
the documented information, the electricity versus somewhere else, that's what I wanna see is, I wanna make sure we're getting that information.
And that
You know how we had talked about the study to see?
Comparison between, say for instance, just, if you can put that thought into verbiage, and we can give it to them, and that way we can be clear on what you ask.
My understanding is they're gonna do an assessment of the buildings to see what new space we need, where we might can put the new space, if we have anywhere. The existing space we have, whether it needs to be demolished or whether or not when we start moving people into supposedly a new space, how to best utilize our existing spaces.
Well, and they'll give us the cost too of utilities, like utility costs.
That's what I was talking about. Remember we talked about the utility, you brought that up?
So that'll say, hey,
That's good.
this building right here costing you 40% too much per square footage or whatever you need to put in insulation or what have
I
you.
need you to sign that.
And that was what we talked to them about. Even when we talked to them again, we relayed that we wanted to know in-depth studies on square footage, how much square footage it'll take to house, what we're spending now per square foot, as you know. So that all of that should be what we receive.
We'll
we can
clear
double
the
check.
picture up for us.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I think that's 12,000, would be 12,000 well spent. We need that kind of information before we can move forward.
I second it, I think. Orlando motion.
Trainer, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we move forward with the, contract with Major Design Studio. Any additional questions? If not, all in favor? Motion carries.
The next thing I have is we did the reverse auction on the election equipment purchase. We only had one bidder participate. And the cost of the new item that the circuit clerk's office wants for election is $256,447. I brought y'all and left on the table this morning the information I have on the equipment that was provided. Do y'all want to move forward with this or table it to,
One quick question on whether we do or don't. The monies that we would stand to get as Oklahoma County is concerned from the COVID relief, can we use that money on something like this?
the biggest part of this is gonna be paid from 2 grants through the Secretary of State's office. I think one was for 70,000, around 70, one was from 80,000. And then we got, another grant from 45,000 from a nonprofit deal that will go to pay for this equipment.
So that's gonna leave us around 61,000, is that what you mean?
For the county to pick up.
Go ahead.
Okay. I did question why we only got one bid, on this. It is a Mississippi company, which is fantastic. But I will tell you it's because of in the bid, layout, there were some specific terms that they had to meet, and this was to protect the consumer. Was your company from the United States? Those types of things were in here, and that narrowed down, I think, us getting some bids from companies that maybe would have software concerns.
Ooh.
And so that's the reason we only got one, because once I think there were other bids, companies that were interested, but they weren't United States based. They maybe had some associations with that software company that's been questioned so much. So I think that's what eliminated it down to this one, and I think that they feel comfortable with this because of the provisions that they put in the bid process to make sure it was going to protect the consumer during the election process.
I've got a question. What about the warranty on this? How much is the warranty gonna cost, and each election, will we have to bring a tech in to
We will always have to bring techs in.
Calibrate the machines?
I always have to do that.
Okay.
That will be part of it.
But these machines are actually easier, there's less machines to maintain, because this is the group that came and did that presentation to us.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
more fail-safe, it's got a backup in essence, with the paper ballot.
Well, and that's even with the AccuCount or whatever machines that, these actually print the ballots out, and I don't know if y'all remember, the civil suits and lawsuits and stuff like that about, there were some machines that were questioned after the count, and it was actually, I don't know if I sent it to everybody, but I know I posted it on there, but the technician was able to go in when they were checking the machines, or they felt like they possibly did that and moved where it counted and moved votes around. And that was only discovered.
Oh, you're
not here,
not.
but it was only discovered. It was only discovered because paper ballots could be printed out, and these will have paper ballots. So,
what about the warranty on
No, I don't answer that
Well, that's okay.
question.
That's okay. We won't spend no
It's a
time.
standard warranty, but I
We
will find
won't
out
spend
for
any
you.
time.
It was more than that, they said it was like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's good, we get 3 grants. 3 grants will go along with the, purchase of it, so, do we have a motion? Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Miller, that we move forward with the purchase of the election equipment. All in favor? Motion carries, 5-0.
Okay, payment of credit card charges, I'm gonna skip that one and come back to it. Payment of credit card charges.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer,
Second.
second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we pay the credit card charge. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Payment of claims docket, claims number 2092-25.
Motion by Supervisor Montgomery, second by Supervisor Howard. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. One abstaining.
I had put back in the packet one more time, the Barnett Bridge invoice, and I believe, that was requested to be tabled until the attorney can review it.
He's just been out. I got a jump drive with all the information on it. Since I was the one that asked to do that, would that be okay if we just? They stayed in session 2 weeks straight. Would it be okay if I just look over that information with him before we bring it back to the board?
I don't have a problem with any of that.
I make the motion to table it until next meeting, please.
Yeah, I'll table too.
Okay, you want the next board meeting?
Yes, but we will have gotten together and looked through the jump drive and make sure that the board orders match the charges, that are being assessed.
Did I second the claims docket?
Yes?
Motion by Supervisor Miller that we table the payment on the Barnett Bridge invoice to, all in favor? Oh, you gotta get a second. Who seconded it? Okay, I'm sorry. Supervisor Montgomery second. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. There was a question though, I think that probably needs to be addressed as to whether or not the county engineer get paid for a project if the project doesn't make, if it's a state aid project. State aid project doesn't make, but we still get paid for it. Now, if we're not gonna pay it, we need to establish that up front on our policy. And I don't know whether we have a policy on that yet or not.
Well, to that point, Mr. President, is, if there's a project that might be had, and he goes out and looks at it, if there's something on his part that's in error, then there should be some discussion on payment or not. Now, if it's a project that we say go do, you got marching orders to go do, and they go out and look at it, and then we pull back for whatever reason and say we don't want to do that project, then we can certainly pay him.
I just think we need to have a policy in writing and present it to him so he would know what to expect in the future.
I don't think you can refuse to pay him. I mean, it's sort of like he had marching orders from the board to proceed. It's sort of like, you know, he programmed a job and put it on the shelf, and we sit there. We've been waiting on federal money for years and years, but you know, he's done the work, so we can't. Now, Supervisor Montgomery threw that caveat in, if it's something that's in error of him, then maybe we can talk about it. But other than that, I don't think we can refuse to pay anybody that does the work and is proven.
Colonel Roberts, do we need a policy in relation to that in writing?
I think it would help us to have a policy, honestly, but there is a distinction, and I haven't been able to flush this out yet. And that distinction being exactly what y'all are talking about is if there was a mistake on our part, obviously we pay. If there is a mistake, and I will say this, I'm not trying to single out our engineer. Generically. If it were let's say I made a mistake as your professional attorney, and I did work out there and I made a mistake, who pays for that mistake? Do I pay for that mistake, or does the county pay for that mistake? And that question, I think, needs to be asked, and I think I'll probably do, just to cover myself, because honestly this will cover me as well. I will do some research on my own and see what I think is the answer, but I'm also going to do an AG's opinion because I'm going to end up being included in this policy, just to make certain. Because if I come back and say, well, it's on you, you're going to pay me, which I'm not saying that's what I'll do, but if I say that, I need to be able to back that up with an opinion that's not just mine.
Yeah, right. and I'm not going to prolong the time, but on this particular one, and I'm going to wait because Supervisor Miller want to wait. But on this particular one right here, I guess we're sort of saying he should have known that it wasn't wide enough to put a bridge in. The span wasn't wide enough. But if you back all the way back up to the original deal, he said this is what state aid will allow a box cover to be placed in that opening. And he started going forward with that, what they would allow, and then he was stopped and said, well, we don't want a box, we want a bridge. So you can't rightly say that it was his fault, because he was telling you what state aid, and I think if he hadn't been stopped, that would have been done, that would have been in, that would have been taken care of, it would have been over with. So it wasn't him that said, y'all don't need to put in a box cover. He was stopped and said, we don't want what state aid says you can have, we want a bridge. So now that's where the rub came in at. So now, you know, I don't think it's so fair to him to say, well, you should have known. When he originally said, this is what state aid, this is what you can put in, this is what state aid.
You would make a great attorney, because that's the distinction. If I were representing his interest in terms of that, I would make that distinction that this would have been allowed at that point. I guess the question I have to ask in generic terms is, who pays for the mistake? And of course, I'm not saying that's his mistake or anything. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out, once we get past that threshold, because we have professional insurance, or should, that
Well,
we're
and so
supposed
do
to
they
cover
have,
ourselves.
it's called errors and omission
Right.
insurance, but when you've got the same person doing your projects that are overseeing the projects, do you think that person's ever gonna say, this is, my errors and omissions should cover this?
I know.
You know, and we gotta think that in any case, whether it be anything, and yes, we are reviewing this just because I think over $18,000 is a lot of money. And it's taxpayers' money. It's not our money. All of this money is not government money. It's taxpayers' dollars, and I think that it's our responsibility as stewards of the taxpayers' dollars to make sure that we are reviewing everything. And that's the only reason I'm asking to be able to share. He has been in Jackson for 2 weeks straight. I want him to look over the stuff on the jump drive with me. And there are 3 board orders and what they say, and look at the stuff on the jump drive, and let's make sure we're all on the same page.
And then I think to Supervisor Williams, President Williams got a good point, is to prevent future things from happening. Have it in writing. He
I
knows
certainly
that
think
whoever the engineer is, henceforth, that, you know.
Or professional services. I'll put generic.
Yeah, professional services, yeah.
Because I don't.
That's a good
We can't wait
thing
till-
to draw
We can't
up.
wait till after the job has been done and
Change
say,
the
this is
rules.
our policy now that we have to implement. All that should be understood ahead of time. Goes along with that is, what responsibility should the city have in regards to paying some of the portion of the 18,000, since the bridge is inside the city limits? It was really their request, and then it was also their request to change from a pipe to a box cover.
To agree.
So, should they bear some of the expense? And I don't know how we look into that, but should they bear some of the expense of the cost?
Question, what's the current status of the bridge? Did they replace it, or did they leave it like it was? Or?
It's not a bridge, is the
What?
best I got heard.
Of the crossing?
So, you know, the thing too, we need to go back and look at the laws. You know, when did the measurements change? When did the measurements change? You know, the first, like I said, the first pictures on this jump drive that I got from 2005. So it's been our responsibility. We know for at least 15 years that the county, you know, on this particular jump drive, that we've been measuring and taking care of this structure. So I don't know when the laws changed to take it off our inventory, but it didn't take it off our inventory until after, and we had already allotted that it was going to be a state aid project anyway, the $143,000 or $34,000 or whatever it was. So we're just going to review this stuff, and I think we'll have a lot more answers when we come back next board meeting, if that's okay, and we can send it ahead of time in an email, if that's okay.
Okay, we're on the table, the Barnett Bridge, payment. We didn't say when, but we know we're gonna.
Well, by next board meeting, we'll have the answers that we need, and we'll share all that information.
Moving forward.
I believe I'm
Since we don't have, Ms. Emma doesn't have anything else, county business, supervisors, county business.
Well, we got 2 items here on the agenda. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Mr. Gary Davis to serve the unexpired term of Mr. Will Sanders on the East Alpena Hall Wastewater District Board.
So much second.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, that we appoint Gary Davis to the East Alpena Hall County Wastewater District Board. All in favor? Motion carries, 5-0.
I'd like to make another motion that we purchase up to 5 trucks at the $22,825 off state contract price.
What are these for?
These are for
Supervisor.
supervisor.
Is that for the Nissan or for?
No, I'm referring to the Dodge that's listed at 22,825. It's a half-ton pickup. You got a color between white or red, with the basic package on it. Only additional thing will be added, I think, is 4-wheel drive tank.
want,
Yeah, that's an extended cab.
Right, it's crew cab.
no, the crew
No,
cab
the
is
crew
the
cab is
25.
different, that's about 25. We really need the crew cab, I think.
Okay, well, we go to crew
Both
cab.
doors and, that kind of thing. Then we go back to what we already got if we don't get that.
But now this one says optional. Okay, I'm thinking about extended cab. This one says half ton, extended cab. That one half ton, crew cab. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So we need to,
I think you can go with the crew cab. I mean, that's 25, 25.
Okay, do you want the Hemi
No,
or just the regular V6?
I said a regular V6 would be
that
fine.
would be six, good.
Or you want
What
different
chrome?
colors?
No, I would say just go with the white or the red.
Okay,
I mean, it costs you another $200, but I don't think that makes much difference to me.
okay.
A little chrome on her.
Now, Chrome, you get into a different package.
It's not a different package, but a different, extended amount.
Do you want the trailer tow packet, the
I would say the tow package, because whoever gets it beyond us is gonna need to tow something somewhere. So even-
and that's, in my mind, these trucks may go to the workers, so when it stops being a supervisor's truck and become a worker truck, is the six-cylinder gonna be good enough? And, you know, we need a crew cab because you can haul more workers. So I'm thinking beyond the term of, it's just us. When this truck goes to the workers, will a six-cylinder, if they start trying to haul stuff with it and pull things with
It
it?
makes 6 cylinders now.
Yeah, I think
They're pretty
this
souped
$600
up.
would be pretty
Okay,
good.
I
I
just,
mean, they good.
good enough.
Do we want
All-terrain,
all-terrain tires?
all-terrain tire.
We want the 6.5-foot bed.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
You
that's
don't want a long bed.
Okay, we want the chrome appearance.
And at least a CD player.
No.
If it comes
No
down.
chrome appearance.
I got AM, FM radio.
We want chrome appearance or
Yeah,
don't?
we do want chrome appearance.
Okay, that's just six.
So someone else might get it and we might have to take it to the sales and more value.
Chrome, how about
Yeah, but it's more
straight
cost to the taxpayers. Y'all gotta remember, the taxpayers paying for these trucks,
We don't
not
want
us.
chrome
Not us.
appearance.
So
No
leave,
chrome-
Taxpayers paying for what you.
Chrome appearance is 88 or 90.
that's
How
you.
much extra is it?
675.
So how much for five, a total of how much?
3,000,
Chrome
4,000.
like the
I don't
red
have to
book.
have Chrome.
Okay.
We'll get one with Chrome, get three without.
Well, don't count me for one, cause I don't drive a county truck. I just use my own personal vehicle, so I'm a no on this anyway.
A trailer brake.
Well, that vehicle is part of the job, it comes with the job.
Okay, so we're getting everything but chrome appearance. What about the Hemi or the 6-cylinder? What'd y'all decide on it?
I said six neutral.
Six-cylinder? Yeah, I guess I would rather see an 8.
Well, get a 6 and get 8. I mean, well, they still gonna change the price.
The Hemi,
It's
he
2,300
said the
volt.
Hemi's easier to get these, cause I think he had some of these pre-ordered with that. Y'all tell me what you
Give me a
want.
Hemi.
Get a Hemi?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Get a Hemi,
Yeah.
okay, and we want 4. Okay, give me a board order.
Don't move.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor, Trainer, second by Supervisor McDermott, and move forward with the purchase of 4 trucks. Any additional questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'm not gonna vote because
Do we have any,
You can vote even though you don't get
Well,
one.
I know, but they get in the truck, I'm gonna abstain, cause I'm not getting one.
But
Everybody get their own truck.
But you do know abstaining is a yes vote. You have to vote no in order for not to be included. Abstaining is just a yes vote, is all abstaining is.
It is not a yes vote.
It's-
Rob, is abstaining a yes vote?
It's not.
Is included with the yes votes,
Yeah,
however,
absolutely.
it's separate from, it separates you from.
But it still
voting
puts
yes.
you in the yes column if it
It
came
doesn't
down.
count
to it.
against the.
But if it wasn't but 2 of us here that abstained vote,
Would
wouldn't allow us to move forward.
Right, but in order for, if we get sued, in order for you not to be sued, you have to have voted no.
Well, you
Well,
won't
still-
get,
Or sign that
Still-
claims docket, right?
you won't get sued for behind these pickups, it's okay.
I'd be looking at the claims docket, abstaining ain't really doing you no good.
Okay,
You have to vote no.
said
You don't
no.
want to include
If I
it.
was to spend the money when I come back.
We can move forward.
Well, I'll change mine to no, since it's such a big deal for me to
It ain't no
abstain.
big deal, I'm just telling you what the law is.
4 yea, 1 nay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they gonna be in?
Soon, because I don't have an air conditioner in mine, I'm just driving a hot truck.
So y'all know, I do need to go into a closed session to determine just so y'all know that.
Well, can we do the mask and the curfew real quick, please? I have a lot of people ask about that. I make a motion that we, do away with the curfew, because the
I thought
counties
we
around us
already
have
did
done
with
it.
that curfew, didn't we? We did?
That's been working for, can we get some input from the sheriff's department?
We can.
How that's working for them?
It works good for us. Our juvenile, especially crime, has dropped tremendously. But we're okay with whatever the board decides.
And I think you've been reasonable too in terms of who you stop, if you can tell whether the person going to work or, well, they just
I
out
think it's
of,
midnight to 4, is that right?
Yeah, 12.
Midnight to 4, so.
I'll just say that the surrounding counties have dropped theirs, and that's the reason I did talk to somebody, you know, in the sheriff's department, and they didn't have a problem with us going to the other counties, what they had done, and I thought we were doing that too during COVID, as part of crowd control. So that was my suggestion on that.
So you're making a motion to do away with the curfew. I'll second that.
motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we discontinue the curfew from 24. Any additional questions or comments? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion failed. Motion failed, 2-3.
Did you vote against it?
I did it.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we,
Maybe we can redo
remove the mask mandate. I do, I'll look to see, I've asked how many people have been vaccinated. If you look at the CDC website too, you'll see people are taking personal responsibility for their health. And in Ocklawaha County, 12,130 people have been vaccinated. CDC website says once you've been vaccinated, based off the studies, that you don't need to wear a mask, and can also be around people that have not been vaccinated. So I ask that we remove the mask mandate and people continue to take personal responsibility for their health.
Based on your numbers, you said 12,000?
Yeah, they're available.
47,000 people in Ocklawaha County.
I'm just telling you what's
I
already
know,
been vaccinated.
I'm running
Right.
some numbers in my head. I would like to see at least 35% vaccinated. 12,000 is about 10%.
But now,
of the people.
mind you, this is not a mandated vaccine either, you know, some people
Is
may
that
not.
just the ones that went to the airport, not counting other places?
I went other places, just so y'all know that other out there.
What about surrounding, my whole decision is based on surrounding counties, Webster, Clay, Winston, Choctaw, Lowndes.
The bulk of them don't have a mandate anymore, they live with whatever the.
So I'm saying, it's kinda like this, when I sit down and take my mask off versus if I stand up, then I gotta put my mask on, versus if I cross this line, then I can take my mask off. So if everybody's doing it, I'm for it. I'll play my part. But if some are and some aren't, and let's be quite honest with you, you can go to Walmart today and here in Starkville and see people that just refuse to wear the mask. I'm not one of
Yeah,
those.
that's been from the beginning.
That's been from the beginning. And so, look, if we're all holding hands, we're all doing it, you know what I'm saying, we're all doing our part, I got no problem keeping the mask mandate, but I think it's useless when some do, some don't. So,
You know,
did you make a motion?
our vote is gonna be,
Need a second.
countywide,
I'll
because the
second.
city still has theirs in place. You know, there's not a ton of businesses outside of the city limits.
They're gonna let you in there without a man.
But I'm not gonna lose sleep either way.
Okay, we have a motion, to move forward, we have a motion by Supervisor Miller, and a second by Supervisor Montgomery, that we remove the math requirement. Are there any additional comments or questions? If not, all in favor of removing the math, would you raise your hand? 2, all opposed?
And the reason being, people gonna do what they wanna do regardless, they already
My
doing
reason
it.
being is this, just because you've been vaccinated doesn't mean you're not gonna get COVID-19. You can still.
But now that's not what the science on the CDC website is saying.
May I finish? That doesn't mean that you're not gonna get COVID-19, and it doesn't mean that you cannot infect someone else because you have been vaccinated. You can be vaccinated and still get COVID-19, and you can still infect someone else. So just the fact that we're giving shots doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to take you out of shot. We got a little bit more further to go. Supervisor Howell made a comment a few minutes ago that even if we said yes, you can just walk around the county, but as soon as you come to town, you still gonna have to put your mask back on. The city still says, they have the mask requirement still on.
I would just say on the CDC
yeah,
website says now,
I don't
it
think
says you can go indoor, outdoor, fully vaccinated with people wearing masks, without wearing masks, or staying without your 6 feet, get closer. You can gather indoors, with unvaccinated people of any age. I mean, this is their first 2 things. So they're saying if you're vaccinated based off their study that.
You know what, at this point, this is more or less just a suggestion anyway. I mean, people are doing what they, I don't think y'all have arrested anybody for not requiring people to come. So it's just, it's more of a recommendation. People from the beginning have worn a mask if they wanted to. And even right now, when I go into a store outside the kitchen, I bet you 10% of the people don't have a mask on. So, but there's nothing wrong with it.
I'm not losing sleep over it.
I do have an observation. I had someone call me about a garbage bill. And these are individuals who rent to other renters, other people. This person is concerned that they are getting the bill for the renters, but the renters are not getting the bill. So I thought that the person who owned the property would get a bill, and the renters will also get a bill. Her concern is that she gets the bill, and she has to inform all the renters and take that bill around to them and say, you owe this bill here. So I was under the impression that both the renter would get a bill and the property owner would also get a bill.
So that would double our mail-in fee from the TDD.
Just the property owner gets the bill and waste like from the rent.
Now Jennifer did say that she could send the bill to both, but now, they charge us for every bill they send out.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah, we get charged 99 cents or something for every bill that's mailed.
I was wondering if we send the owner, property owner, some kind of printout or something that would be cheap over the bill.
I guess you would have to talk to Jennifer then about that and see what they charge the county to do that.
The property owner is the person responsible for paying the bill.
Then they add it to.
And the renter, not the renter.
They add it to the lease.
Okay, that's all I have. Any other supervisor have anything else that they'd like to add?
I got a couple of things here I wanted to bring to the board's attention. And both of them are time sensitive. Of course, you all know about the ARA that was passed, the American Recovery Act. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that's involved in that. And that's going to be a work in progress because the money's in place. I mean, this is almost like unheard of. The money's in place, but the rules are still being developed. It's usually the other way around. But there is an opportunity for us to get and to apply for some federal funding through an effort that they're bringing back that they used to use, that they used to call earmark. But now they're calling it, they're referring to it as community project funding. And what has happened is each member of Congress has an opportunity to submit projects that they want funded. And there's some special money that's going to be allocated to support some of these projects. Only thing about this is there's a short window of trying to get a lot of this stuff in place. I think the date that I'm looking at is like on the 14th of April, between the 14th and 16th of April, when you need to have everything kind of in place to submit for some of this federal earmark money that's going to be coming down. And what my question to the board is that two things got to happen in a short time frame. Either if we're wanting to look at pursuing this to get some support on the federal level, then first of all we got to come up with a project that we can all agree on. And then we got to get that project packaged and get it presented to someone in our delegation and get them to buy into it. And then they will be the one that will actually tote the water for the county to submit this. They already have an allocation allotted to them. But of course, you know, they don't have an allocation to support everybody in their district. And so therefore it's going to behoove us to get in front of our delegation, I guess it's Michael Guest is our representative, and get some airtime with him, put our project before him, get him to bless it, and then get him to support a project from Occidental County and possibly get considered for funding with this money. We're also going to have someone to help us to coordinate all these efforts together. And I've been in conversation with a local governmental strategist, which is a group that works with the Mississippi Association of Supervised Minority Caucus, that's been real good about informing and also educating and putting together opportunities like this so counties can pursue. My question to you is that if we're interested in pursuing that part of money, there's a short time frame, there's some things that we're going to need to do. And if we get it done and get it before the person that's going to present it for us, we may get an opportunity to get some funding. The elephant in the room is deciding what project to submit and then getting all the due diligence things together so we can submit this project. And if there's something we want to do, the opportunity is there. If it's too big for us to bite on right now, then of course we'll miss that vote. Now, I know we talked earlier about funding that we had anticipated coming from the state, but this funding is coming from the federal source, so this doesn't involve the state. Just like with the ARA, that money is coming directly to county, and I thank God that it is, because if it had gone to the state, it would get political maneuvering would happen, and a lot of the money, you wouldn't have as much free range with the money as you would right now. And so therefore, I think we need to consider some of the things that we'll be able to do with the ARA money, but at the same time, what we need to do is focus on projects of priority. And I know that we talked a little bit about the situation with Octok and County Lake Road and some other things. Magistrate. My suggestion is that we need to go ahead and pass a resolution to issue up to $10 million in bond, county money, bond money. Listen to me good. With the $10 million, what we need to do is we need to allocate this money based upon, we already know District 5 got $1 million coming from the state. The first $5 million of the $10 million that I think that we ought to issue bonds for, we ought to split it within the other 4 districts. Put $1 million here, put $1 million there, put $1 million there, put $1 million here. District 5 already got $1 million. District 5 already got $1 million.
You don't need to penalize.
We're not penalizing. I just said the first $5 million.
I'll let you finish.
I said the first $5 million. Then the second $5 million of the $10 million that we need to issue, we need to come up with an allocation based upon some agreed upon criteria. The agreed upon criteria could be, we could do like we did last time with the allocation. You know, last time when we allocated some bond money, I think 4 got the most, 2 and 5 was pretty much about the same. I think you were number 4, you were number 5. Okay, you could reverse the order. You can put more money here, you can put the second most there, it'll still send 2 and 5 in the same position, and it'll put 4 on the bottom end. Or you can allocate that other 5 based upon road mileage, or based upon a scenario based upon taking that money, dividing 4 ways. Divided evenly, based upon the population that should be evenly in all of our districts, based upon the census. You can take a quarter of it and divide it even. You can take another quarter and divide it based upon road mileage. Then you can take another quarter of it and divide it upon
Assessed value.
assessed valuation. If you want.
Well, you've done population.
And then you can take another quarter and divide it based upon whether the board agrees.
Well, why don't we all know we need another county building for courts, and we all can agree on that. I mean, we need something. We talked about maybe looking at, we talked about, and y'all know I've talked about it, I don't mind bringing it up and saying it, hiring a full-time county engineer to do some of these things that we want to do and putting them on staff, but we've got to have a place in a building to put them. We can all agree on that if we can go for one project, why not look at an infrastructure need like that that's going to benefit everybody in the community?
Well, and I'm not saying we can't do that, but we all have different interests.
Well, and we do all, and I agree
So
with that.
I'm saying we can do it all, but we can't do it all to the magnitude of getting it all done what I want done. You can get a portion done, and then everybody can have something invested into it and can get something out of the deal.
Well, let me say this, let me say this, and I'm hearing all of this. We can do it on assessed mileage, we can do it on road mileage, we can do it on the biggest need. The County Lake Dam continues to sit there. That can has continued to be kicked down the road since 1972. And I'm afraid this board is still sort of trying to kick this can on down the road. Again, let me bring it back home. Because the County Lake sits in District 3, that does not mean that's District 3's lake. That's Octavia County's lake. No more than Octavia County OCH sits in District 3, that's not District 3's hospital. Again, we keep maneuvering around that. Now the Corps sent an email that says for the first time ever, they have received funding for dam repair. Now this is not grant money, but the Corps says that for the first time ever, they have received, Ms. Emily, do you remember the number? $100 million or something for dam repair. But it's based on a loan. So now at some point, we just because it's not raining now, and we're not having those torrential downpours right now, don't mean we're not gonna have them again. And the County Lake Dam can't continue to be out of sight, out of mind in this situation. So we can't continue to talk around when we keep talking about getting large sums of money. We know we've got a problem sitting out there that needs addressing. And the County Lake Dam is a problem that needs addressing, and it needs addressing during this board term, during this board time, and not kicked down the road again for another term.
Well, how much county support do we need to invest into solving the County Lake issue?
What do you mean, county?
How much county money do we need to allocate?
We need to fix the dam.
So we need to allocate all the county money?
We need to fix the dam.
So the dam is $8 million.
We need to fix the dam.
But so what I'm saying is, we need to fix the dam. That means we need to go down and issue bonds for $8 million and let the citizens pay for that fixing the dam.
Well, we need to fix the dam.
So you'll support it?
Of fixing the dam?
No, you support issuing the money, giving the money to fix the dam. That's what's gonna fix the dam.
No, this is not a mean support. You keep going back. Again, I just said that the county lake is not District 3's lake.
I know, but the county is gonna have to fix it regardless of what the lake is.
It's gotta be fixed. That's what I'm saying.
And it's got to be paid for. And you
If
got to get
there's
the funds.
earmarked money now, and I think we had all said at one time or another, if there was money that was to be given to the county, then the dam would be
Absolutely.
fixed.
We
But
went to
nobody
Washington
was
trying to get
in
something.
agreement to go and borrow money to fix the dam.
So what I'm saying is, you got to find a project that all of us will be in agreement of, and then we're gonna have to put personal preferences aside. I don't have a problem with it. But the bottom line of it is that we're gonna have to do a combination of things. We're gonna have to eat the cost of it some, and then if you can get some federal support or some state support, you gotta do that. But in order to get the support from others, we got to be together ourselves.
Well, and that's understandable.
And in order for us to be together, we got to compromise.
But the conversation was, let's agree on a project, and we start talking about doing this amount. When we start talking about the possibility of getting earmarked money, number one should have been County Lake Dam. That should be the number one
Based upon
concern.
what data?
Let me intercede into this
Based
conversation.
upon
I'm
this.
trying to.
I mean,
So
based upon
if
that.
you're, the money that you're talking about, the earmarks, the community development, is there a number kind of on that we might pull? Or is it just, we need to present them a project, be it the county lake, be it health department, be it road, ABC, whatever?
To kind of bring it back down, we would have to contact someone in Michael Guess's office and get a commitment from him on what he is willing to go to bat for us for. He'll have a number.
Oh, yeah.
But he's gonna have some other priorities throughout the district. He may say, well, I'm gonna get y'all $2 million. What do we do? Say, we don't have that in enough, and we're not gonna take it.
Well, to that point, what I'm doing, I'm trying to think of what Senator Guest will do here, Representative Guest, excuse me, will do here is, if we say, hey, if it's any of the roads that we're talking about, probably not gonna consider that as much. If it's the health department, you could make the argument that he would consider it, but if it's the county lake, what we've been dealing with. Now maybe, look, I'm moving pieces to try to do them all. If we could, and this may be something in a work session would have to be maybe this week, tomorrow, whatever. I'd want to know what that number is from.
He's not gonna give us a number until we've got an agreement here, would be my bet. And I'm gonna throw another caveat here. When we go into our closed session, I'm gonna throw something else on the table that y'all need to be aware of.
About it late.
Can we have that discussion? That way it'll give us full.
I know we talked about it.
I'm just saying because we've been patient, and look, it's something that's not going to go away.
It's just a
We
don't
got to
go
go
all the way around.
Let's
It's just-
go on.
Let me make a comment about what you talked about earlier. First of all, maybe we need to search for money where it can be found. Some projects are not gonna be approved. So we have talked about a bill, and Supervisor Miller alluded to that earlier. Every time we think about infrastructure, we think about roads. But I think roads go and come. We do repair on them, and before you know it, we gotta do repair on it again. A building is something that will be with us certainly our lifetime, and probably our children's lifetime too. So I think we need to be thinking about more future projects than immediate resolution. We talked about that building, and we talked about space for county administration. They need more space, but I don't think a project moving forward with just county administration would sell. But if we said something about county health department, I think that will get people's attention. Especially what happened recently with COVID-19 and various infection disease is not over with yet. We might have COVID-19 over with, but there are other infectious diseases that are coming on later. So I think that, I guess I would conclude by saying we have to search for money where it can be found. And I believe that's somewhere where we can find funding to do county health, in addition to county health, to add additional space to that same building for county administration and other functional county government too as well.
You're not saying that don't look for money for the county lake because we can't find it, are you? Is that what
No,
you're
I'm
suggesting?
not
Okay,
saying,
I
I said that it don't have to be voted, so it might be county lake. If we can submit a proposal for county lake, then, maybe we can get that one together too. I just do know that, I do know that county health probably will open my eyes. That roads will.
So in other words,
I say
you
roads.
are saying sort of put County Lake Dam on the back going and go toward.
No, I'm not saying.
Okay.
I think that eventually we're gonna have to do what Supervisor Trainer said. I believe we're gonna have to, if we can't get funding, if we can't get funding for it, we gonna have to pay for the expense of the county lake eventually.
Can I ask this question? You know, I've never been a proponent, and I don't mind saying this publicly, of taking the whole dam down and redoing it if we could just fix it. And right now we are in a dry dam scenario. In other words, there was no water in the lake to start with, and so it's just run out. So if you don't have water in the lake, if you don't have water to a level in the lake, a dam's normally not going to breach. And the information that we had all along the way, and we asked for documentation on, was where's the documentation that proves that the levee, that there's issues with the core of the levee. We knew there were slides, okay? So why don't we take, the dam safety people said that for around $1 million we could fix the dam and get in compliance. Why don't we do that? Why do we have to spend $10 million of taxpayers' dollars to take the dam completely down?
I don't have a problem with that, but my problem, we've ordered studies. We told Clyde to move forward with the LADAR. We did the boring.
Yeah, but the dam safety division never got the boring stuff to confirm that.
I don't.
The last.
Yeah. Now you hadn't been communicating. I don't know with Clyde but here's the deal. Unless I bring that county lake dam up, nobody else up here brings it up. That's the issue I'm having. Nobody else brings the county lake dam up. As long as I don't say anything about it, nobody else is concerned about it. But whenever I bring it up, then here we start with the same. Well, let's look same scenario again. If you get serious about fixing it, if we can fix it for $1 million, let's fix it. But let's get serious about fixing it.
Two proposals. Can we submit two proposals? And maybe Senator Guest will move forward with one or the other.
Well, let's just make County Lake #1 priority for him to go search for money for.
Well, if you do that, then what that does, in my opinion, is that it only limits County Lake to that particular effort. In other words, because if you start shuffling between the state, the federal, and the local, and get it all confused, you're going to be right back where you started.
Well, now, you're the ones that we need to identify a project and push
I
it
know
forward.
that, but what I'm saying is once you identify it from that level, it needs to stay a federal pursuit project. We don't need to be trying to go back to the state of Mississippi and then trying to do other things.
Let's go into
that's going to make the project go.
We talking double talk out of both sides of our mouth.
No, we're not talking double. I'm asking you. Well, I'm asking you. It's going to take some.
You originally said let the board identify a project that they want.
I know that, but now what I'm saying is we hadn't decided on the project. We're not.
Well, I said let's make County Lake Dam the #1 project.
But what makes County Lake more important than our top? What makes County Lake
you
more
know why?
important?
Because people are living down behind the dam and safety.
But she just said.
Okay, let's go into because I see now the reasoning. The life value doesn't mean as much as a good road to ride on.
Marvin.
Yeah, that's what you just said. That's exactly what you just said.
I'm saying.
The scare tactic is being pitched. No documentation to that scare tactic, but it's being pitched.
Nobody here lives behind the county lake but me.
Okay.
I make a
Y'all
motion, we
gonna
go to closed
say
session. I make a motion, we go to closed
Motion by
session.
Supervisor Montgomery, second by going into closed session. Second by Supervisor Trainer, and we're going to closed
See, you
session.
done moved up to the front right here.
Any questions about closed session? If not, all in favor?
What are we going in to discuss? We have to